Welcome to Fanfiction Audiobooks. One Piece, start as a mythical beast, practice to become stronger. Chapter 1 Purgatory on Earth. Brain Storage. The timeline may differ from the anime, but it is generally written according to the original timeline. I feel that the bounties of characters in One Piece are not strictly based on their strength, but depend on the harm done by the pirate. The ability of the fruit also needs to be developed. Because the timeline is too early, the strength of many people has not yet grown. There are 1,000 hamlets in the eyes of 1,000 people. I hope you like the story I wrote. Haiwan calendar year 1484. The western seaside. Valley of the Gods. Black smoke covered the sky, scarlet blood was spilled everywhere, lifeless corpses covered the land, and the entire island was like a purgatory on earth. Figures in prison uniforms and civilians on the island were running around, and every time a gunshot was heard, a person would fall to the ground, dead. Jinan looked at everything in front of him, leaning against a tree in a daze, supporting his body so as not to collapse to the ground. The last moment, he was in a bustling modern city, full of peace and tranquility, and in the blink of an eye, he was on a bloody battlefield. No, this is just a one-sided massacre. It is impossible for such a place to exist on the blue planet in the 21st century, at least where he lives. But everything that is happening around me is so real. His trembling hands uncontrollably clenched the object in his hands. The goose feather knife that he had asked someone to forge also came with him to this strange place, hoping that it would bring him some comfort. Looking at this hellish scene, his breathing became increasingly difficult, and it seemed that he had to use all his strength to take a breath. At this time, human tragedies continue to occur in every corner of the island. Run! Get out of this area! They're coming! I am the last person in my family. Why should we have to face such a thing? As long as I survive 3 weeks, no. Why was this island chosen by those people? I hate it. I don't want to die. I must get out of here alive. Deafening roars came from all directions, making people feel cold all over, as if this place was a slaughterhouse, but the people being hunted were living people. Boom! A bony fist smashed hard into Jinan's cheek, and drops of blood slowly dripped from the corner of his mouth. Caught off guard, Jinan was beaten so hard that he became dizzy and fell to the ground. Are you looking for death by standing in the middle of the road? The man roared in frustration, you are blocking my way. If you don't want to live, don't get in my way. Get out of here. Jinan shuddered at the pain, glanced at the man angrily, and couldn't help but clench his hand holding the weapon, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Anyone who was knocked down by a punch for no apparent reason would feel unhappy, and there were no roads here, so everyone had to shuttle through the woods to avoid the bullets fired by the nobles. Then he smiled with relief. Sure enough, no matter where you are, you will encounter this kind of scum. Even when facing death, they want to die later than others. The man seemed unsatisfied after knocking Jinan down. He approached Jinan hysterically. The bloodshot in his eyes was clearly visible and his pupils were contracting unnaturally. It seemed as if he was suffering from a huge fear inside and urgently needed to vent it. Kid, you look like you are still not convinced. The man glanced at the weapon in Jinan's hand, sneered and pointed behind him. With your small body, you can't even use the weapon, and there are nobles chasing you. How about I keep it for you first and return it to you after we escape from here? After saying that, he grinned and swung his not-so-strong arm and threw a punch. No, are you sick? There are so many roads here, how am I in your way? Under the man's confused gaze, Jinan put away the weapon in his hand. Rolled to the side twice, and avoided his attack. He couldn't understand how this kid could dodge his attack. He was clearly standing aside like a fool. Jinan didn't say any more nonsense. He swung the knife in his hand hard and hit the man between his legs. Ouch! The man only felt a sharp pain and curled up on the ground. After a successful attack, Jinan did not stay any longer. He left the man behind and turned around and ran into the forest. Da-da-da. After he left, intensive gunfire suddenly rang out. At the same time as the gunshots rang out, a group of richly dressed nobles appeared where Jinan had originally stood, looking down at the wailing man in front of them. The man, who was about to continue swearing, was pierced through the forehead by a bullet before he could even see the person in front of him. Red and white blood immediately flowed out of the wound. The man's expression was still as ferocious as ever, but his body had lost control and fell limply to the ground. In the distance, Jinan, hiding behind a tree, saw everything. Jinan instinctively wanted to cover his mouth with his hands, trying to hold back the urge to vomit. This was the closest he had ever been to death in his 2 lifetimes. People here didn't care about the death of others. On the contrary, people here will do whatever it takes to survive. He knew that if he didn't run away quickly, he would become like those people around him, being shot instantly, lying on the ground in pain, waiting to die. Ha 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 ha, did you see that? These people were fighting among themselves while they were running away. A man in gorgeous clothes said jokingly to the people around him. In the Valley of Gods, although these ordinary nobles were far inferior to the celestial dragons in status and position, they still felt great when they bullied and abused themselves in front of the slaves. They were like a group of cats, playing with the mouse like slaves and natives, watching those people die in despair. This kind of fun is hard to come by. I see. As expected, slaves are slaves. They are still so ugly and despicable. They are disgusting. Livestock are meant to be hunted, and they can also bring us some pleasure. They have proved their worth and died a worthy death. How many points did you get? I'm getting closer and closer to getting the attention of the celestial dragons, ha 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 ha. I don't care about scores. Killing alone gives me an incomparable pleasure. Don't even think about the rewards. The masters of the Knights of God have already left us far behind in terms of scores. Didn't a little white rabbit escape just now? I hope he can bring me more fun, he he he. The nobles threw away their already limited etiquette, laughed and raised their guns, looking for their next target. Jinan rubbed his forehead, moving his legs continuously, and seemed to hear the teasing voices of those people in his ears. He withdrew his gaze and understood the situation he was facing. Under the threat of death, he temporarily forgot his physical fatigue and searched for the next hiding place. He probably traveled through time, and was transported to hell right from the start. He was probably the target of those people. He didn't know how long he could hold on, but staying calm in this situation would give him a better chance of survival. And there was one thing that made Jinan feel very strange. Those people were obviously running for their lives, but in their eyes there was more expectation. The madness here was beyond his imagination. He didn't understand the reason for this massacre. Could it be for fun? Jinan's head was full of question marks, but in a place like this, probably no one could explain the situation here to him. Brother, it's too dangerous for you to stay here. A tall boy in prison uniform ran up to Jinan and started talking to him. His toes kept twisting in his torn shoes, and it was obvious that the boy was not as calm as he appeared. I have some friends in a relatively safe place, would you like to come? Please comment, thanks Orts. Chapter 2 Bartholomew Bear. Jinan looked at the boy in front of him and felt as if he had seen him somewhere. What's your name? The boy seemed not to have expected the other party to ask this and was stunned for a moment. My name is Bartholomew Bear, you can just call me Bear. Although he had no idea what the man was going to do, he still answered politely. Hearing this name, Jinan understood something, and the figure in his memory slowly overlapped with the boy in front of him. One Piece? No wonder it's so chaotic. Jinan muttered. Then he replied, I'll go with you. He believed in Dakshang's character. He was a man who would fulfill his promise even if it meant his death. Speechless all the way. Thank you, your knife is really good. The chain was cut so easily. Hee hee. Ivankov took the chopped chain away from his wrist and grinned. Jinan stroked the blade in his hand, which was flashing with cold light, and nodded, I put a lot of thought into this knife. Big Bear, you've really helped a lot. Ivankov patted Big Bear's shoulder with his hand that had just been freed and praised him. If Dakshang hadn't brought Jinan over, it would have taken him some effort to get rid of the chains. It feels so good to have my hands free, hee hee. Putting away his playful expression, Ivankov said to Jinan beside him with a serious face, join us and escape from this cage together. That's right. If you join us, your chances of survival will increase a lot. Ginny, who was feasting on her meal, looked at the Den Den Mushi beside her and persuaded her, and if you join us, you may get unexpected gains. After all, the most important goal now is to save lives, and there is strength in numbers. Jinan's eyes flickered. After this period of contact, he learned about the situation of the island from these people. The island is surrounded by the navy sent by the world government, and it is extremely difficult to escape from here. Moreover, he believed in the abilities of these people, and he knew that most of the people here had successfully survived for several decades. Following them, his safety would be guaranteed to a certain extent. Seeing that his persuasion seemed to be effective, Ivankov kicked his legs and jumped onto the highest rock nearby. He looked at the panicked people around him and shouted. Yes, this is the Valley of Gods, a place targeted by the so-called gods. This place is full of despair, powerlessness, and death for us. It also provides fun, laughter, and pleasure for the executioners. Are you satisfied with the current situation? After hearing these words, most people below lowered their heads in disappointment. They were also very unwilling, but they had no way to resist, and they would die faster if they resisted. Now the only motivation that keeps them alive is the promise of the celestial dragons that you will be free if you survive 3 weeks. Jinan took in the expressions of the people around him. Did these people do anything wrong? Not at all. It is the greed and cruelty of the celestial dragons that force them to live such a miserable life. It is because of the rich resources of this island that this island is named God. He clenched his fists. He was angry at the distortion of the world, but he was powerless to change it. Although he is a time traveler, he has nothing except a knife. Although he has learned some kung fu, his physical fitness is no match for the people in this world. However, he still wanted to try to do something to make his trip to this world worthwhile. No one can get close to here, and no one can escape from this island. Everything that actually happened here will be erased from history. This is a massacre race to drive out the indigenous people and plunder their resources. The survival rate of the previous competition was 0. Wake up, everyone. It's impossible to stay here for 3 weeks. The conference lasted for 3 weeks. It was impossible for the celestial dragons to kill more than 10 people in an instant. They still had plenty of time to escape. Jinan chose to join Ivankov and persuaded the crowd. Although his voice was not loud, his sincerity calmed the people around him a little. They tried to scold the slaves to wake them up, and their lips were almost worn out, but to little avail. Just when people still had illusions and were extremely conflicted. The broadcast covering the entire island sounded, and the host's excited voice sounded, announcing the good news. Congratulations to Saint Gallen for getting the first point. The broadcast was followed by the revelry of the nobles and the lamentations of the prey. There are about 10 prey on this island, including slaves captured by the celestial dragons and the indigenous people living here. The target painted on the back of their clothes is a death warrant. Every gunshot will take away a life. The video Den Den Mushi captured all the heroic figures of C.G. Garen and the other Knights of God, and directly transmitted them to the land of the gods in Marijoa. In the picture, Saint Garen is riding a bird-shaped flying mount, constantly charging and slashing in the crowd. Saint Gallen, who was originally punished to start from the negative point for killing the king, is now leading by a huge margin. The host shouted, Saint Gallen's actual score should be points. Listen to me. Ginny said to Jinan and the other 2 beside her while listening to the message coming from the Den Den Mushi. The prize of this conference is the key to our escape. As long as you eat it, you can transform into the mythical beast Blue Dragon, the strongest level devil fruit, and another one. Ginny paused for a moment and continued, the ability to instantly send others and yourself to a distant place. It's called the meatball fruit, and it's all on this island. Looking at it this way, as long as one of us can eat that fruit, we and more people can escape from this island. Jinan came to the conclusion after a little thought. Yes, this is the easiest way for us to escape from this island. Ginny nodded and glanced at the people around her. Hey! Jinan sighed. It's not easy to get something this important. Yes, these things are stored as prizes in the center of this island. Ginny nodded with a smile. Jinan couldn't help but admire the little girl for being so optimistic under such circumstances. As if she could see the discouragement of the people around her, Ginny continued, I'm an expert in theft, eavesdropping, and communications. I sent out the information here 2 weeks ago. Maybe someone is already on their way here. Jinan looked at the harmless Ginny in front of him. Stealing the Den Den Mushi, eavesdropping on these key information and releasing it to the public were most likely done by her alone. It seems that I have found a big boss, Jinan touched his nose and muttered to himself. Although this is our operation, bait is necessary to ensure success, Ginny added. There was silence at the scene, no one made a sound. Some people even quietly moved back a few steps to make themselves less conspicuous. They know the dangers of being bait, and no one wants to go. Just when everyone lowered their heads, the big bear with a smile on his face raised his hand. Let me do it. I think my body is strong and I will live longer than others. Big Bear saw that everyone around him was looking at him in amazement, and he touched his head shyly. And I don't want to see anyone die. Ginny restrained her smile and was speechless for a moment. She lowered her head, not knowing what she was thinking. Jinan pulled down De Xiang's raised hand and said, "You are still a child. Let someone older like me do this kind of thing." Isn't Jinan afraid of death? No, he was more afraid than anyone else, but he always believed that there was a reward for every investment, and in order to survive in this world, a little danger was nothing. A crisp electronic synthesized sound suddenly rang in my mind. Ding! The host has made a major choice. The system is officially online. Chapter 3: The Opportunity Comes. No, I must go. In the eyes of those celestial dragons, my value is still very high. Big Bear said seriously. He understands his own identity, and with the blessing of this identity, he must be a hot commodity in the eyes of the celestial dragons. Killing him can get higher scores. Let him be the bait, and you will definitely get unexpected rewards. Looking at Daxiang's determined eyes, Jinan knew that he could not change his mind no matter what. So he nodded and agreed to Big Bear's proposal, then focused his consciousness and paid attention to the system he had just obtained. A screen that only Jinan could see appeared in front of him. Congratulations to the host for binding the auxiliary cultivation system. This system is designed to assist the host in completing tasks and gaining stronger power. He glanced at the system list and found that the system also had a character status bar. It clearly lists his current physical condition. Host, Jinan, healthy, but still a rookie. Physique, 5, although you have some training, you are still not as good as a child in this world. Please keep working hard, ordinary male in the pirate world, 20. Spiritual power, 25, you are well read, which makes your mental power slightly stronger than that of ordinary people, ordinary male in the pirate world, 20. Swordsmanship, 30, your swordsmanship is pretty good, please keep up the good work, ordinary male in the pirate world, 0. Armament Haki, 0 not awakened. Observation Haki, 0, not awakened. Conqueror's Haki, 0 not awakened. Final conclusion, the host is just an ordinary person with a combat power of only 5. Please keep up the good work and don't give up. Silence is Cambridge tonight. Although Jinan was aware that there was a certain gap between his body that had traveled directly through time and space and the natives of this world, the gap was too big. He sighed, stopped paying attention to these annoying things, and looked at other parts of the system. Mission: replace Bartholomew Big Bear as bait. Reward: each attribute is permanently increased by 5, including 3 types of domineering, to open them all. Plus 50 plus 4024 plus 5010. Jinan's eyes widened slightly. Wow, I thought this mission was going to be extremely difficult, but I didn't expect there would be benefits for novices. Then, with a thought, he directly used the 2 experience cards, and the 2 cards instantly turned into light and merged into his body. After receiving everything, consciousness returns to reality. The time that consciousness stays in the system space is negligible in reality, and none of the people in front of him noticed anything unusual. As consciousness returned, Jinan's first feeling was that the world seemed to have changed. No, it's just that his perception has become sharper, and things that he couldn't notice before are now clearly visible. Even if you just clench your fist lightly, you can feel that the power now is far greater than before. Hey ha! You two are awesome! Ivankov was surprised that 2 people would take the initiative to stand up for such a thing. But I won't let you get killed. Let's leave this God's Valley together. Jinan and Daxiang smiled at each other and said loudly, we will definitely survive. We will leave this place together. Boom! At this moment, a huge explosion was heard from a distance, and the ground shook. Jinan turned towards the direction of the explosion and smiled. It looks like our chance has come. The sea area outside the Valley of Gods. Familiar pirate ships are approaching rapidly in an endless stream. These pirates started traveling thousands of miles from the New World to this western seaside frontier 2 weeks ago. By now, the first batch of pirates are in place. Along with the sound of gunfire, a loud voice suddenly rang out. Marine, feel the fear. Rocks Pirates, follow me. This voice is undoubtedly that of the leader of the Rocks Pirates, Rocks. Following his order, many leaders of the Rocks Pirates appeared on the coast, holding their weapons and staring at the flustered navy. The notorious pirates in the New World have their own ideas, but they all have the same goal. Make a big fuss in this place where the celestial dragons gather, let your name spread all over the world, and obtain the amazing wealth on the island. Whitebeard Edward Newgate picked up the naginata that was beside him. Locks, don't speak to me in a commanding tone. Before he could finish his words, he realized that Rox was no longer in sight. Does that guy still remember the main purpose of our coming here? First we should confirm. Whitebeard followed Rox and rushed into the island. Behind them, several other people also had their own opinions. They joined the Rox pirates only because it was profitable. When it is profitable, they may obey orders to a certain extent, but most of the time they only care about their own interests and put money first. You all act like you're dreaming. I just want to quietly take what I want and leave. Charlotte Lingling was indifferent to everything and didn't care about anything. She simply turned a deaf ear to Rock's orders. It seems that Roger has also taken action. Only that guy. Kaido turned his head with a serious face and said, Lingling, that kind of thing is not very useful to you. Remember to keep an eye on it for me. Now that we are on the island, it all depends on our own abilities. Lingling did not give a direct answer, but waved her hand and disappeared into the forest. The celestial dragon who was still playing the game was disturbed and looked annoyed. What are those navy officers doing? They can't even do such a small thing. What if something happens to us? In the distance, a navy soldier hurriedly ran up to the group of celestial dragons. Report. This island is being invaded by pirates from all directions. The celestial dragons and the marines were in chaos. The pirates' purpose is unclear, and what is going on here is clearly top secret. The Roger and Rox pirates have invaded various locations on this island, and the God's Knights are fighting them. Please move to a safe area. In the bushes near the center of the island. His ears were filled with shouts of killing, cursing, and pleas for mercy, but Jinan always remained highly focused. Because the destination of their trip was placed in the square before them. The entire square was covered with a dazzling array of gold, silver, and treasures, sparkling with moving light. Compared with other areas filled with flesh and blood, this place was like heaven. The 6 treasure chests were placed in the center of the treasure, indicating their preciousness. Jinan and his friends are only one step away from success, one thought can lead to heaven or hell. Big Bear, get ready. This is the moment that will decide life or death. If they can't get the fruit, only death will await them. Moreover, the pirates' goal is also these treasures, and if they don't seize the time, they will miss the chance. Jinan looked around and made arrangements softly. The situation here is different from what we expected. There are fewer guards. They must have been assigned to protect the pigs. I'll go out and attract the guards' attention. You guys try to get to the box in the center as quickly as possible. Then, before Big Bear and the others could react, he took a step and rushed out in an instant. Chapter 4, Battle for Devil Fruit. Dusk. A breeze blew away the fallen leaves. The guards were so nervous that they were like frightened birds. The slightest sound could make their bodies tense up instantly. They were the guards brought by the celestial dragons from Marijoa and could not disobey any orders given by the celestial dragons. Even though I knew that pirates would definitely find me here, I couldn't even think of running away. Being here means death, and escaping from here also means death. Suddenly, there were rapid footsteps and a figure rushed out from the woods and headed straight for the treasure. The guards' eyes narrowed, they stomped their legs hard on the ground, and then their whole body instantly appeared in front of Jinan, and they punched out with all their strength. On the other side, the guard stepped into the air, somersaulted twice in the air, and suddenly kicked up, rolling up the vacuum like a sharp strike, quickly approaching Jinan. Boom! In an instant, the ground cracked at the place where the attack occurred, and smoke and dust rose up. The guard spat on the ground and wiped the dust off his hands. I thought he was so powerful, but it turns out he's just a petty thief. In their opinion, a person who could be easily dealt with by just 2 people was not worth all the guards surrounding him. Hey, didn't you guys eat? You're so slow. On the eaves above their heads, Jinan was patting his spotless clothes in a relaxed and comfortable manner. After adding 50 points of physical strength, he could deal with these guards easily. After a brief trial, he found that there was no need to be so cautious. It would have been easier to just take the fruit directly. However, in his sight, Big Bear and Ivankov were already within reach of the treasure chest. When the guards below heard these mocking words, they were so angry that their faces turned pale, but what frightened them even more was that no one could see clearly the movements of the man on the eaves. Fear overwhelmed their reason and they kept moving backwards. Can we really deal with this kind of monster? Hearing this, Jinan's mouth twitched. Did they have any misunderstandings about monsters? What? A scream reached Jinan's ears. Turning around, he saw a tall and beautiful woman pinching Ivankov's face with one hand and slamming it to the ground, while holding a devil fruit in the other hand. Ouch! That was close. I almost became the big-head dragon king. Charlotte Lingling looked at Ivankov and teased. She didn't stop for a moment. After getting off the boat, she rushed here and snatched the fruit before it was eaten. Hand over the other fruit as well. Charlotte Lingling ignored the people around her, let go of Ivankov and grabbed the fruit in Big Bear's hand. Eat it quickly. Big Bear! Don't hesitate! Ivankov roared at the top of his lungs. The Big Bear swallowed the fruit in his hand in one gulp. He knew that this was the fruit his friends had fought hard for, and he couldn't let them down. Pooh! Charlotte Lingling spat, but it was too late. You must be saved. Even if you are the only one, it will be our victory. Charlotte Lingling looked at Ivankov, who was still vomiting blood, and did not take any further action. She was already a person with special abilities, and the fruit was just a tool for her to gain benefits. There are so many treasure chests and gold, silver and jewelry here, she has made a fortune. Hey, I'm waiting for someone to come. What are you waiting for? Ivankov opened his mouth and mocked Charlotte Lingling directly. Whoosh! Jinan, realizing something was wrong, attacked her from behind. Little ghost, who gave you the courage to face me? Charlotte Lingling slightly turned sideways to avoid Jinan's attack. You are Auntie. The woman in front of me is very beautiful. She has a pair of charming big eyes under her curved eyebrows, her lips are delicate and plump, and her whole body looks like a ripe peach. His impression of One Piece was limited to the Cake Island plot, but he had also seen what this woman looked like when she was young. After Jinan confirmed his guess, he couldn't help but feel a sinking feeling in his heart. He had no confidence that he could stop this opponent. Auntie had been strong since she was a child, and she had a body of iron and steel, and even cannons could not leave any marks on her. Auntie! The veins on Charlotte Lingling's forehead bulged, and it was obvious that she was extremely angry. Very good, boy, I will remember you. Do you know what the price is for saying these two words in front of a woman? Jinan regretted it after saying those two words. He knew how terrible this woman could be when she went mad. She could even kill her own son and daughter at will. Besides, Charlotte Lingling had not yet become as fat as she was later on, and no one in this world would dare to call her that to her face. Jinan felt that something was wrong and immediately yelled to Ivankov and Dakshang, "Get out of here quickly! Elbaf spear powerful country!" Charlotte Lingling casually placed the fruit in her hand inside her clothes, then raised the knife above her head with one hand and swung it forward suddenly. A purple sword energy shock wave carrying the breath of death swept towards Jinan. In a hurry, Jinan could only draw his sword and rush forward, slashing at Charlotte Lingling with all his strength, but he could hardly make any progress. An unimaginable force came from his arms, veins on his neck and arms exploded, and his whole body was pushed by the sword energy, leaving 2 marks on the ground. At the same time, a terrifying force enveloped the entire area. Only screams could be heard. All the people and animals within 100 meters had their eyes wide open, with only fear in their eyes, and the screams after the flash of the knife. Some people didn't even have time to utter a scream before their entire bodies turned into a pool of blood mist and floated in the air, leaving only a scorch mark on the ground. Before they died, their distorted postures were enough to prove how terrified they were. Fortunately, after hearing Jinan's reminder, Big Bear immediately used the ability of his fruit to instantly knock himself and Ivankov out of the attack range. What a destructive force! Ivankov murmured, the smile no longer on his face. In just a blink of an eye, the surrounding area of several hundred meters was completely turned into a dead area. Corpses were lying everywhere, and even the plants had lost their vitality. What about Jinan? How is he doing? Big Bear looked around, trying to find Jinan, but unfortunately, his sight was blocked by the dust and he could not find him. In an area covered in dust. Not bad. Although I only used 5% of my strength, you are pretty good to be able to block this move. Charlotte Lingling licked her lips, showing a hint of interest. Jinan half knelt on the ground with a sword in one hand. The clothes on his hands were all shattered, and his arms were covered with scars left by the sword. He once again experienced the feeling of approaching death. But a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The hand that was originally placed behind his back slowly moved to his mouth, holding a pearl that looked like it was surrounded by dragon scales. Devil fruit. P.S. This book sets Big Mom's strength not yet at its peak, and she is used to comfort and has not practiced hard, so many moves have not been learned, and homies only has Prometheus. Chapter 5 Fight. Devil Fruit. After Charlotte Lingling saw what was in Jin An's hand, she fumbled with her hands to the place where she had placed the devil fruit before, and sure enough, the thing was gone. Are you looking for death? She has always been the only one who steals other people's things, and no one has ever been able to take away what she has already got, not even one. I don't intend to die here. Jinan looked at the fruit in his hand with some curiosity. He had heard that devil fruits tasted worse than shit, but he wondered if it would be better if he swallowed it in one gulp. Seeing that Jinan was about to eat the fruit, Charlotte Lingling slowed down her tone and whispered, "Put down the fruit. I can exchange it with you for something else." Jinan glanced at her, as if to say, "Do you think I'm stupid? To believe the words of a pirate?" Seeing this look, Charlotte Lingling was so angry that her lungs exploded. If soft tactics didn't work, she would use hard tactics. Taking a deep breath and preparing himself mentally, Jinan closed his eyes, took a bite, and then swallowed the entire devil fruit in an instant with a crunch, crunch. Prometheus, burn that guy to death. Seeing that the matter was irreversible, Charlotte Lingling was filled with hatred and directly dragged her strongest homies out of the hat and injected his soul into him. The sun, which originally looked like a sloppy sketch, instantly turned into a blazing fireball. Charlotte Lingling grabbed the sun Prometheus and waved it back and forth. The vortex formed by the spinning flames rushed towards Jinan with extremely high temperature. Click! 10,000 meters in the sky, the sun was instantly covered by dark clouds, strong winds blew on the earth, and a bolt of lightning struck from the sky. Boom! The falling thunder struck right above the vortex of fire, and the two collided violently. In an instant, the shock wave generated by the explosion spread outward, and you could see that it was mixed with stone and tree debris, destroying everything in its path. This is the destructive power of a single attack from a powerful person in this world. The Big Bear, Ivankov, and the people who were still staying nearby were blown away by the strong storm. "It's too dangerous here, Big Bear." Ivankov pulled his head out of the soil, still a little frightened, and looked into the distance with an extremely solemn expression. Jinan is still inside. The Big Bear wasn't in much better condition, his entire body was covered in dust, as if he had just crawled out of the mud. "He'll be fine." Ivankov said things that he didn't even believe, but they had more important things to do. But, Big Bear didn't want to give up on his friend just like that, even though they had only known each other for a few hours. Ivankov looked at the strong and kind child in front of him and sighed, "We still have a lot to do. Cheer up. He will be fine." He said this to Big Bear, and also to himself, "We will be fine." Big Bear looked at the pads that had grown on his palms since he ate the fruit. He had just used this ability. With this ability, we can succeed. After saying that, Big Bear and the others ran away, slapping away everyone he saw with his palms. "Little devil, you're pretty tough." The battle between Charlotte Lingling and Jinan continues. The battle was not one-sided. Although Jinan was at a disadvantage, he was able to block Charlotte Lingling's violent attack. "The blue dragon fruit has made you more resilient." Charlotte Lingling's eyes turned red. That thing was obviously hers, but now it was being used against her by the other party. Jinan, who had been being beaten, was also annoyed by the tall beauty in front of him. They could have snatched the fruit and escaped unscathed, but Cheng Yaojin showed up halfway. Not only did all the plans get disrupted, but it also hurt a lot. It's hard to get hurt and bleed, but the pain won't go away. After taking a look at the system panel, he found that his physical attribute had reached 79 points, including the points of the limited time card. It seemed that 80 points was a big hurdle and the limited time attribute would be diluted to a certain extent. But now it has become invulnerable to swords and guns. But from my perspective, it feels a bit more resistant to beatings. I don't know how Dakshang and the others are doing now. How dare you be distracted when fighting me? Charlotte Lingling reached out and tugged at Prometheus's face, then grabbed it in her hand. "Take this move from me. Fire from the sky." She injected her power into Prometheus and then threw it towards Jinan. "Wow, take this move from me." Prometheus screamed and pounced towards Jinan. The scorching temperature made the air density decrease and caused distortion. At this time, Jinan, who had been standing still, moved. He was not in a hurry, and faced the overwhelming heat wave with an unchanged expression. He looked up at the sky full of dark clouds and pointed to the sky with two fingers together. A ray of light sank into the clouds from his fingers, and then the sea of clouds rolled. Afterwards, the air was filled with a tremor caused by electric current fluctuations, the thick purple thunder in the clouds rolled like a giant snake, and the invisible energy slowly spread. Charlotte Lingling, who was the first to sense the danger, stood still. It was not that she didn't want to dodge, but she felt a force of energy locking onto her and there was nowhere to hide. Prometheus! Charlotte Lingling called out loudly, wanting it to come back to defend, but it was too late. Prometheus' attack hit Jinan head-on, but it was not happy. It also felt the trembling breath in the air. Crack! There was a loud bang in the sky, and the thunder that had been brewing for a long time seemed to have received the signal. It turned into a thunder dragon, pouring down from the sky and directly hitting Charlotte Lingling, who was defending herself with a sword. Boom! When the thunder dragon fell, the island shook violently because it could not withstand the violent impact. Everyone standing on the island was knocked to the ground by the sudden earthquake. This was one of the few pauses in the game. Is this earthquake a punishment from God for those people who played the game of killing for fun? Many people who were injured in the earthquake felt the pain caused by the power of heaven and earth, but they were ecstatic. The celestial dragons and the nobles are nowhere to be seen. Have they been punished? They need to build up a belief to support their broken bodies and survive this disaster. Mother! The panicked Prometheus didn't care about Jinan, whose skin had been burned and seemed unable to resist, and rushed quickly to the place where the thunder fell. It is unknown whether Charlotte Lingling is dead or alive. Shat! The pain from the burn made Jinan's mouth twitch unconsciously. Because this move of his required too long to prepare, he was unable to dodge Charlotte Lingling's attacks and could only resort to a strategy of exchanging injuries for injuries. However, the pain in his body made him not want to use this style of play again. Strictly speaking, this move was not accomplished by Jinan's own strength. He borrowed the method of Suzuki using Kirin and used a wisp of chi to mobilize the power of nature to achieve his goal. The ability of a devil fruit is determined by the way the user develops it. Its purpose and power are determined by how it is developed. In Jinan's subconscious, Azure Dragon is one of the 4 spirits of heaven and one of the 7 stars of the east. With endless possibilities, there is a lot of room to choose from in terms of development direction. Chapter 6: A child emerges from the treasure chest. After the earthquake, the fighting on the island is still going on. The navy and pirates and celestial dragons, pirates and civilian slaves. Many corpses lay in the mud, blood and flesh flying everywhere, but the pirates and navy officers showed no fear at all, and hacked and killed the crowd with expressionless faces. Instead, those pirates whose names could be called out became even more excited. Their clothes were covered in blood and flesh, and it was unclear whether it was their own or someone else's. The ferocious momentum was still high, like a madman returning from hell. These people are real desperados who survived the battlefield. Every move they make is clean and neat, and they eliminate the enemies in front of them with minimal consumption. I haven't had such a good time killing in a long time. There's nothing special about the celestial dragons. They all have 2 arms and 2 legs. If there's any difference, they're just ugly and fat. Ha ha ha, if you can talk, then talk more. The celestial dragons hiding behind the screen were ashamed and angry, but there was nothing they could do. They dare not leave the protection of the navy. Big Bear, can you still hold on? Ivankov looked at the sweaty and panting bear with a worried look on his face. They have rescued countless people along the way, and the long hours of travel and the intensive use of their abilities have caused them severe pain even when they move the slightest. But their speed did not slow down. Now, they are completely supported by their faith and cannot relax at all. If they relax, they will immediately faint on the ground. The 2 supported each other and moved forward into the distance. In the sky, the dark clouds dissipated, and a ray of dawn light streaked across the sky, shining on the mottled earth. Jinan, who was in a coma, felt something licking his cheek and pursed his cracked lips. As he gradually woke up, he felt a sharp pain accompanied by an intense itching. He knew that the burns he had suffered were severe and pain was inevitable. The intense itching was even more unbearable for him. He knew that this was caused by the healing of the wound. I have to say that the impact resistance and self-healing ability brought by the blue dragon fruit are simply ridiculously strong. It's a pity that he had just eaten the fruit and had not yet mastered the dragon and human beast forms, otherwise he would not have been injured so badly. Jinan still remembered that after leaving Prometheus, he picked up a treasure chest at random and wanted to quickly find Dakshang and the others. However, after walking a certain distance, he could no longer bear the severe dizziness. Hey! A cheerful baby sound was heard, and the touch that I felt in a coma continued. Jinan turned his head and saw a red-haired child. Blinking his big eyes and looking at him cutely. Did you wake yourself up? The baby was too young to know what Jinan was saying. He just kept grinning foolishly, as if he was very happy that he woke up. Enduring the physical discomfort, Jinan slowly stood up, which hurt his wound and made him grimace in pain. Giggle cluck. The baby saw his expression, squinted his eyes and laughed out loud. Jinan pulled the corner of his mouth. Is his expression so funny? You little rascal, you laugh like a rooster. He picked up the baby, scratched his nose lightly, and complained. Looking around, there was no one here. He was a little confused as to how the baby got here. Until he saw the treasure chest lying quietly at his feet. The treasure chest gave birth to a baby. He shook his head, trying to get rid of the sudden thought. This was impossible no matter how he thought about it. Looking at the baby in his arms, Jinan was in a dilemma. What should he do with this little guy? He could only take it one step at a time. The most important thing now was to find a way to leave here. The world is technologically advanced, but there are no mobile phones. Things like Den Den Mushi seem to be ridiculously expensive. If I really can't contact Dakshang and the others, I'll have to find a way to leave on my own. I guess there are pirate ships everywhere on the coast now. He can just pick one that no one claims and leave on the boat. Jinan praised himself for his cleverness in his heart. So Jinan held the child and limped towards the coast. We have tried our best. Many people on the island survived because of you, right? Ivankov stroked the big bear's head and spoke softly to comfort him. But I can't find Jin An. Desyang's vision was obscured by tears. Not far away was the place where Jinan and Charlotte Lingling were fighting. The devastated land was dotted with pirates searching for treasure. Linlin and Prometheus were nowhere to be seen. I was supposed to be the bait. Dakshang originally did not intend to follow Jinan's advice and was ready to run out directly to attract the guards, but he did not expect that Jinan was much faster than him. He can't catch up with that guy. Don't be so pessimistic. With his speed, he can just run away if he can't beat him, right? Looking at the crying big bear, Ivankov felt very uncomfortable. I heard that you met Saint Satan when you were rescuing people. I hope you weren't hurt. Ginny ran over breathlessly. Ivankov shook his head and replied, it's okay. With the power of the big bear, we escaped. That's good. Ginny patted her chest. She did not follow Dakshang and the others, but instead kept eavesdropping on the Navy's movements. I overheard that the Vice Admiral and Roger have joined forces to defeat Rox in one fell swoop. We must leave this island. Once Rox is defeated, the Navy will vigorously hunt down the pirates on this island. By then, there will be no possibility for them to escape. Where's the big brother? After this collaboration, the four of them have become a relatively close group, so they must go together. Ivankov shook his head. He hasn't been found yet. He went alone to stop Charlotte Lingling and buy us some time. Ginny took out a package from her bag. Inside the package was a rectangular mirror, a card with indecipherable words on it, a bunch of keys, and a piece of paper covered with squares. He gave it to me when he left the camp. He said if we couldn't find him, we should escape first. Ivankov scratched his head. I roughly know what the other things are, but what does this piece of paper he left behind mean? If Jinan were here, he would definitely complain that he has become illiterate in this world and can only speak 3 languages, Chinese, Japanese, and English. I can understand it but not understand it, but it's okay. It's okay. Ginny took out 4 pieces of white paper. Big Bear suppressed his sadness and said, is this a life card? Ginny nodded, I made this using your nails. The one on the far left is Jin An's. Let's tear off some of the others. After the 3 of them dealt with these things, they walked in the direction of Jinan life card. Chapter 7 The Kingdom of Sorbet. I built this road, I planted this tree. Jinan chose a ship that was neither too big nor too small, hoping to use words to influence the people on the ship so that they would willingly hand over control of the pirate ship. He had been shouting here for a while, but no one in the boat responded to him. Since you guys are silent, I'll take that as your agreement. Jinan, holding the child, was as happy as a 160-pound child. He finally found a good boat. When Jinan arrived inside the pirate ship, he was a little puzzled. How did the ship drive? He had only ridden a bicycle since he was a child. Jinan patted his forehead and suddenly remembered the movies he had watched. Oh, right, set sail. He went straight to the mast. Looking at the sail in front of him, he doesn't know how to use this either. Outside the pirate ship, 3 people stood in front of the boat. Are you sure this is here? Ginny spread out her palms, and the life paper was still moving forward little by little. It seems this is it. The 3 of them fell into deep thought. The 3 of them looked at each other and said, it seems that he was captured by pirates. Ivankov, what should we do? Big Bear couldn't wait any longer. Why don't we just rush in? As long as we're fast enough, the people inside won't be able to react. Ginny shook her head to deny it and retracted her gaze at the fool. I think it's better to be more stable. Jinan, who gave up driving his own boat and was leaning on the railing to think about whether to invite a pirate friend in a friendly way, saw the 3 people brainstorming. Hey! Long time no see, you 3. The sudden sound scared the 3 people outside the boat and they glared at the man. You weren't caught? Or did you join the pirates? The 3 of them were surprised at first, and then a sense of doubt arose in their hearts. Jinan was a little confused. When did he join the pirates? How come he didn't know? Remembering that he was still on the pirate ship, he suddenly realized and patted the railing. I borrowed this. Can you lend this thing? The pirates would have no food without this thing, so why would they lend it to others? Jinan said as if it was a matter of course, I asked them to borrow it 3 times, but they didn't answer, so I just assumed they agreed. It's just sitting here anyway. It sounds like it makes sense to me. Big Bear was a little confused. Ginny and Ivankov looked at each other and a drop of sweat appeared on their foreheads at the same time. Why didn't they realize that this guy was so good at telling jokes before? Haha, no more jokes, have you finished your work? I had been suppressing myself before, but after I relaxed, I felt very satisfied having friends to chat with. We rescued everyone we could, but unfortunately, Jinan came under the boat with the child in his arms. There is nothing to regret. We have tried our best. Even if the result is not satisfactory, it is the best we can do now. He saw the 3 people in front of him pointing their fingers at him and looking at him in astonishment, and couldn't help feeling a little strange. I touched my face and it was still covered with dust, but this was how it looked when I met them. In order to survive in this strange place, the first step must be to cover up one's overly attractive face. You already have a child. Obviously. Judging by their looks, all 3 of them had the same idea. Jinan stroked the baby's cheek with his fingers. It felt so good that he couldn't stop. This little guy crawled out of a treasure chest. Then he told them everything that happened after he met Charlotte Lingling. There are so many people on the island, who knows if there is anyone lucky enough to witness those things, and this island is under the surveillance of Den Den Mushi. This little guy is so cute. Ginny stretched out her fingers to tease the little guy. She was so touched by his cuteness that she wanted to snatch him and hold him in her arms. Let's not talk about this anymore. Are you ready to leave here? Jinan asked. Ivankov nodded. Now that we have found you, we can leave now. We have done everything we can do. Where are you going? Ivankov looked at Jinan. The 3 of them had already decided to act together, and now it mainly depended on Jinan's opinion. I'll join you. Jinan had no reason to hesitate. He was alone in this world and it didn't matter where he went. In that case, let's stand together and hold hands, Ginny suggested. The ability of the Kuma fruit is to bounce off everything, and this ability can also be used to teleport over long distances. By holding hands together, they can teleport away at the same time. Get ready, our journey is about to begin. Big Bear grabbed Ginny's hand with his left hand, then looked at the fleshy ball in the palm of his hand and slapped it on his body. The 4 of them disappeared instantly. Jinan, who was flying in the sky, suddenly heard a voice. Ding! Mission completed. Rewards have been issued, please continue to work hard. West Sea. Kingdom of Sorbet. Solberg is the name of a kind of ice cream. The roof of this kingdom building is built to look like an ice cream cone. People here love ice cream. This was Jinan's feeling when he first arrived here, but after seeing it so many times, it just feels that way. The Kingdom of Solbi is a member of the world government, which means that it is almost never attacked by pirates and the people live a decent life. And now, they have been living on the island for nearly a week. The wind is still very noisy today. Looking at the newspaper in his hand, Jinan looked as if he had expected it. Ivankov took a quick look and said, it seems that those people are not going to reveal anything other than Navy hero garb. It's just normal operation. The world is what those people expect it to be. Ginny looked as if she had known it would be like this. But it's still a pity. I'd like to know what happened there after we left. Big Bear was still praying with a serious face. What are you thinking about, Big Bear? Ivankov asked, puzzled. Big Bear crossed his fingers and said, I wonder if there are still many people who are waiting to be rescued. Don't talk nonsense. You saved so many people in that chaos. Ivankov laughed. That's right. Ginny agreed, Big Bear, you are really awesome. Everyone is crying and thanking you, including myself. It turns out that your home is the church. With the will to save others, you can definitely save more people. Ivankov encouraged. Jinan patted Dasyang on the shoulder, we all believe in you, because you are gentler than all of us. Then he changed his tone and said, I hope you can remember that gentleness is reserved for friends. If you treat everyone the same, it will lead to bad results. To be gentle to your enemies is to be cruel to your own people. What you give to others will become a sharp blade that hurts your companions. Ivankov looked excited and decisively took out a small notebook and wrote down these words. As you can see, this notebook is filled with words, and it will soon be used up. Jinan was speechless. This guy is here again. Aren't these words very normal? That big face is so excited. Today is the day you go out to sea. Jinan sighed. He didn't like the scene of separation, but there were many things he had to go through. Although he didn't quite appreciate Ivankov's outfit, he was still very happy to have such a friend. Yes, be happy for me, buddy. Take care of yourself, I won't forget you. Ivankov packed his bag and prepared to set off. Let's go see you off. Chapter 8 Jinan and the Navy. The white horse passes through the gap. In an exquisite little villa. Brother, I have completed all the tasks for today. Although it only took 30 minutes. A young man with red hair walked briskly towards Jinan, who was resting in a rocking chair. Shanks is here. Jinan stopped shaking, took the reward from the side and handed it over. Here, your favorite BC calcium milk. Since Ivankov left here 4 years ago, the system has issued several more tasks. Compared to the first task, these tasks were just a piece of cake and were completed easily. However, the rewards were pitifully small, so we just made a few formulas, and BC calcium milk was one of them. But thanks to these things, the 4 of them lived a very comfortable life, and accidentally became the richest man in the Salbi kingdom. Improving life is secondary, the most important thing is to save money. This world's navy is very powerful, right? But it can only obey the orders of the world government. The reason for this situation is ultimately because of lack of money. The pirate world is mostly water. Engaging in agriculture is a dead end. If you engage in business, there are too many pirates and it is difficult to move forward. What should people do if they have no money? They can only go out to sea as a pirate, otherwise they will starve to death. Then it became a vicious cycle, causing the world to become the deformed form it is today. Therefore, Jinan decided to make money first. Of course he would never touch those dark areas. Of course, physical exercise has not been given up. Jinan glanced at the panel. Host, Jinan. Physique 79. Spiritual power, 59. Swordsmanship, 79, Great Swordsman, 80 to 89 Master, 100 Grand Master. Shave, 79, step on the ground dozens of times in 0.2 seconds. Finger gun, 79, the power gathered by the fingers can easily penetrate even multiple layers of steel. Armament Haki, 59, not awakened. Observation Haki, 59, not awakened. Heroic Haki, 0, not awakened. Points remaining, 1000. Points can be obtained by collecting emotions and completing tasks issued by the system. Points can be used to open training spaces and shop purchases. The speed of time in the training space is slowed down by 150, and the training results act on the main body. The stronger the data, the less likely it is to grow. Jinan has a lot of complaints that he doesn't know how to spit out. All of his grades failed, and one of them even got 0 points. The last time he used the limited time card, he found that 80 was a hurdle. He didn't expect that after 4 years of training, he would be blocked by 4. This broken system is completely useless. Jinan said he had never seen such a useless system. If the system could speak, it would definitely say, if it weren't for this panel, I wouldn't be able to wash myself clean even if I jumped into the Yellow River. Brother, the lesson the teacher taught in elementary school today was so simple that I was almost bored to death. Shanks drank BC calcium milk without stopping chattering. Jinan rolled his eyes, feeling helpless, but he didn't know what to say. This little guy has learned most of the knowledge at the age of 3. He is definitely a child genius. Can I go to study in that university you built in advance? Shanks looked expectant, trying to achieve his goal by acting coquettishly. Jinan shook his head, you should do things that are appropriate for your age. I want to go back to elementary school. But elementary school is so boring. Shanks pouted in dissatisfaction. Tell me what you learned in school today. Jinan touched Shanks' head and let him lie beside him. Shanks counted on his fingers and said, Initiative, a collection of books like the 3-character classic, mainly teaching how to be a good person, natural studies and then the 5 arts, without the imperial art, ... But the courses in college are more interesting. Medicine, law, economics. I am very interested in all of these. It's a pity that there are no courses like meteorology and astronomy. Jinan looked up at the sky and did not answer. He did not want to admit that the astronomy and meteorology systems in this world had not yet rewarded a knowledge system. Let's talk about it later. I have to go out for something. If you are bored, you can go find your brother Big Bear and sister Ginny. Jinan walked to the clothes rack, put on the coat issued by the Navy, and walked out slowly. He joined the Navy 3.5 years ago. Under the guidance of the system, he killed countless pirates before he was barely promoted to the position of Major, responsible for guarding the Kingdom of Salbi. I thought I could slack off after becoming the highest commander in a region. I didn't expect there would be more. He needs to continue climbing up. He doesn't believe that even after he reaches the top, someone will still assign him tasks. The naval branch of the Kingdom of Salbe. Jinan entered the building from the main entrance with ease and walked into his office. The branch where he was located originally had a full staff of less than 1,000 people. After his reconstruction and completion of the infrastructure, the staff has expanded to more than 2,000 people. Moreover, these people are absolutely loyal to him. After all, who can refuse a boss who not only does not delay salaries but also sets up extra bonuses and year-end bonuses? My butt has just landed on the office chair. I just casually flipped through the documents piled up on the table, and found that they were all trivial matters. Looking at these documents, Jinan stroked his beard. It seemed that he should hire a secretary. He could leave all these matters to the secretary and take a vacation. After the raids over the past few years, there are fewer and fewer pirates in this area. His men could easily deal with those who passed by without him having to take any action, which led to a very harmonious relationship between him and the current King Bikoli. During a casual chat, they happened to talk about how, if Jinan had not suddenly appeared, in a few years the king might have been forced to split the country into two due to the pressure from Tian Shangjin. By using this method to reduce the amount of Tian Shangjin paid, half of it will be protected by the state, and the other half will become a lawless place. This also shows how outrageous the celestial dragon's exploitation of this world has reached. Just then, a man in navy uniform and with curly hair knocked on the door and walked in. He saw Jinan sitting on a chair and resting, and a hint of admiration appeared in his eyes, but considering that he still had a mission to accomplish, he quickly adjusted his mood and said, I have something to report. Jinan restrained his laziness, sat up a little straighter, and looked at the boy in front of him who was as tall as him at the age of 15. It's you, Kyuzan, what's the matter? The navy man is named Kyuzan, who is the future Aokiji. When Jinan just became a lieutenant, he directly joined his team by name. He has good ability, character, and potential, and is one of his right-hand men. Major Jinan. Kyuzan looked a little solemn, hesitated slightly, and said in a deep voice. We received an urgent report at noon today that a group of pirates are approaching a small island in the north of the Kingdom of Salbi. They are expected to arrive in the afternoon. Kyuzan remembered the arrangements made before and said anxiously. I have sent people to investigate, but they have not returned yet. I am worried. However, I have also sent a group of people to the island to protect the safety of civilians. But I'm still a little worried and want to go and check it out myself. Those he sent out were all experts among the scouts, and they knew how to hide their traces very well. If they met with an unexpected accident, the enemy would probably be in trouble. Ding! Go to St. Andrew to investigate and handle the incident. Reward, 2,000 points, 1 hour of training space usage. 2,000 points, even the dogs would shake their heads when they saw it, that would translate into 2 hours of training time, not to mention the stuff in the store, not even enough to buy a single lesson. Moreover, they don't even give any skill points. What a dog system. For things like this, just call me on the den mushy from now on. No need to waste time waiting for me to get to the office. Jinan put on his clothes, took a knife, and pushed the door open. Time waits for no one. Come with me and just show me the way. No matter how small a mosquito is, it is still meat. Chapter 9 Bloody Butcher. Damn it, he dared to cause trouble in the area he was responsible for. He was simply challenging God's will. He was just thinking that it had been a long time since there had been any pirate trouble, but in the blink of an eye, a big one struck him. Major Jinan, walk slower, I can't keep up with you. In order to keep up with Jinan, Kuzan has tried his best, but the distance between them is getting farther and farther, so he has to shout to stop. Boy, don't you exercise enough in your daily life? Jinan collected his thoughts and slowed down a bit. Hearing this, Kuzan's whole face was squeezed together as if he had eaten bitter gourd and lemon. Every day, he only slept and exercised, and he didn't even waste time going to the toilet. In the end, not only was I not praised, but I was also misunderstood. I really feel miserable. Seeing Kuzan's expression, Jinan knew that he had misunderstood, but who made him a high-ranking official? It was impossible for him to apologize. He would give him some compensation later. Let's speed up. I want to know the situation there as soon as possible. Having said that, without waiting for Kuzan's consent, he picked him up and flew into the sky, rushing towards the direction previously pointed out. Wow ah ah ah! For a grown man to make such a sound, it is clear what he has been through. Jinan's voice came from above the clouds, if you scream again, I'll throw you down. He has now mastered all the abilities of the blue dragon fruit, has completely transformed into a dragon, and can also use the little dragon form perfectly. The azure dragon fruit enhanced his physical fitness and greatly improved his physical upper and lower limits. But there are also disadvantages. Ordinary exercise can no longer improve his physique, and like Kaido, his life is almost never threatened, and the development of his abilities has reached a bottleneck. The ability he now uses for flying is Flame Cloud. After his exploration, he found that it can be used in any form, and the strength of each form varies. As their thoughts drifted, they had already arrived above St. Andrew's Island. Jinan looked inside the island. The people on the island were being evacuated in an orderly manner under the organization of the Navy, and there was no panic expression on their faces. They knew that the waters surrounding the kingdom of Salbi were guarded by a very reliable Navy officer. And they trusted that man to protect them all. Jinan looked at the actions of the naval soldiers and nodded with satisfaction. This is what a soldier should do. Distinguish clearly who is the enemy and who is a friend, unite true friends to attack the real enemies. In this way, the number of enemies will become fewer and fewer, and the pressure on their naval forces will also be reduced. His goal is to build a team that truly works for peace, and this team is now taking shape. The island can be safely left to the Navy. Jinan looked towards the other direction of the island. 3 pirate ships were approaching the island and the pirates on them were ready to go. On the Bloody Butcher, a tall and burly man stood at the bow, a crazy smile appeared on his scarred face, making him look even more hideous. Henry Evan, an inconspicuous captain of the Rocks pirates, chose to set up his own company after Rox's defeat. Up to now, the Navy in the West Sea is still undergoing a major purge, so he has no choice but to risk his life passing through the upside-down mountain and come to the South China Sea to act tyrannically. What a beautiful island! It's perfect for me to use as a starting point for my conquest of the South China Sea. Henry Evan stared at the island in front of him with cold eyes, and he couldn't stop the smile on his lips. Boss, are we really going to attack this island? I feel like there's something wrong with the atmosphere in this sea area. A nervous crew member was looking around the pirate ship anxiously, feeling extremely insecure. Are you teaching me what to do? Henry Evan glanced at him indifferently. No. I didn't mean that, I just... The crew was frightened by his aura and shook their heads quickly. Boom! As a gunshot rang out, a flower blooming from blood bloomed on the crewman's chest. Tick-tock tick! Scarlet blood flowed out from the wound. The crew member opened his mouth in disbelief, and the light in his pupils gradually dimmed. Ha 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 ha! The crew members who were watching the fun nearby laughed out loud and didn't take this man's death to heart at all. A newcomer is a newcomer. If he dared to talk to the captain like that, there was no need to be so anxious even if he wanted to die. When I was surrounded by the Navy, I didn't show any fear, so no one in the four seas could threaten my existence. Henry Evan gently blew away the smoke from the muzzle of the gun and a smile returned to his face. Throw it into the sea to feed the fish. He never looked at his subordinate again. There could only be one voice on his ship, and he was the absolute authority. There's no need for cowards on this ship, and this kind of scum will only hold him back. He only requires complete obedience, and extreme madness, and he enjoys killing. This was the only thought in Henry Evan's mind, and then he glanced at his crew. Looking at his subordinates who supported his ideas, he nodded with satisfaction. Wahahaha! Guys! Kill as much as you want. Those stupid civilians on the island are your rewards. Do whatever you like. Henry Evan pulled out the long knife from his waist and played with it casually. There are not many prosperous islands like this in the world. We can grab as many as we want this time. That's right. Under the leadership of Captain Henry, we will get more treasures. With Captain Henry's power, even if the Navy really comes, they will come to die. The pirates were laughing and playing with their arms around each other, and the swords and guns in their hands were dancing involuntarily. Henry Evan smiled confidently. He had killed no less than 500 Navy soldiers, and those he killed were from the Navy of the Grand Line. What bothers him now is his lack of reputation. After he seizes this island and increases his popularity, he can continue to expand his number and dominate the sea area step by step. Thinking of this, Henry Evan laughed wildly, raised the arm holding the long knife and swung it upwards. Following his action, the pirates who were originally making a fuss suddenly became serious. The pirate ship has reached the shore, with its cannons pointed at the town, ready to fire at any time. Guys! Let's have fun! Henry Evan shouted. Hundreds of pirates were fully armed with swords and guns, exuding a fierce and bloodthirsty aura. Boom! With a loud bang, the cannons on the pirate ship poured out ammunition. Henry Irving laughed out loud. But before the smile on his face faded, something happened that caught him off guard. Boom! A violent explosion rose up, and billowing flames and thick smoke slowly dissipated in the air. The sudden change caused the charging pirates to stop. Damn it! How could the shell suddenly explode in mid-air? Henry Evans was furious. The black smoke from the explosion dissipated. Everyone's eyes were involuntarily focused on the figure in mid-air. The man had long flowing hair, clear eyes adorned with two curved eyebrows, and his coat fluttered in the wind. The young man came against the wind, like 1,000 flowers blooming, which was the best description of him. The lieutenant commander looked down at the pirates in the distance, a sneer on his face. It's you dogs who are causing trouble. His voice was not loud, but it was clear to everyone's ears. Who gave you the courage to come to my territory and act wildly? Chapter 10, Pirates' Present Treasures. Have you thought about how you are going to die? Jinnen's deep voice echoed over the island. The Navy, pirates, and civilians all looked up at the Navy lieutenant commander in the sky who was not very tall but full of majesty. The people who were evacuating the island in an orderly manner stopped involuntarily when they heard Jinnen's calm voice. This sound is... Major Jinnen is here. The Navy, who were still evacuating the crowd, suddenly burst into warm cheers, and the admiring light in their eyes sparkled in the sun. Leave some people to continue evacuating the people, and the rest of you follow me to provide support. After Jinnen's arrival, the sailors seemed to be full of energy and were eager to follow the man they admired and charge into battle. You don't have to go over there, just stay here and protect the people. At the entrance of the town, a staggering figure covered his mouth and walked towards the Navy assembly area. Captain Cusin. The sailors stood at attention and saluted, looking in awe of the man before them. Cusin waved his hand and said, "Everyone, go and do your own things. Make sure the safety of the civilians is guaranteed." He was somewhat helpless, his eyes fixed on the entrance of the town in case any pirates sneaked in, although that was unlikely to happen. Ugh! He flew too fast just now and he hasn't recovered yet. Cusin rubbed his stiff face. He was worthy of being Major Jinnen. It only took him 5 minutes to fly 20 kilometers. At this time, Henry Evans' arrogant laughter came from the coast. I thought it was the vice-chairman of the Marine headquarters. He was so arrogant. So he's just a small major. Ha 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 ha. I'm dying of laughter. While I was fighting in the sea, you were still playing with piss and mud. I've killed dozens of brats like you, if not 100. Do you want to take a piss and look in the mirror first, or do you want my help? Jinnen narrowed his eyes. His foul mouth always made people feel uncomfortable. he said calmly. Why, you were scared to the point of peeing your pants just now, and now you're busy pushing it on me. Like a child, he always likes to use bad words to cover up his panic. Henry Evan spat with disdain, then laughed in anger. Then I really want to learn some of your tricks. No one can stop me from moving forward. Whoever stands in my way, I will kill him. He waved heavily in the direction of Jinan. Come on, kill him. I want him to be utterly destroyed. Violence and madness filled his eyes, and the anger in his heart drove him crazy. The atmosphere in the field suddenly became extremely depressing. Under the momentum of the two men, the pirates held their breath, loaded their guns and fired silently, fearing that they would be a beat slower and have the credit taken away by others. Soon, the pirates discovered a problem. Their attacks seemed to have no effect at all, but the bullets clearly hit the navy on the opposite side perfectly. However, the bullet hit the man, but there was no injury at all. The unknown is what scares people the most, but they have no choice. Bullets were fired crazily as if they were free, hoping to suppress the enemy with absolute firepower and bring some sense of security. The people who remained on the pirate ship no longer hesitated and loaded shells into the cannons one by one. In an instant, the hot ammunition, wrapped in heat waves, streaked through the air, forming a hail of bullets. Ha 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 ha, tremble in my fire. He didn't believe that a major could stop their attack, which was enough to destroy an entire town. Inside the town, the sailors' faces changed as the sound of gunfire from the coast reached the town. How come these damn pirates have so many cannons and so many ammunition? Some of the newly recruited sailors were a little anxious as they encountered such brutal pirates on their first mission. Relax, those pirates don't know who they are facing. Kuzan, who had been staying by Jinan's side, was not panicked at all, and even wanted to laugh. This group of pirates relied on their strong ships and powerful guns to suppress the ordinary navy. Not to mention artillery shells, even a famous sword that could cut through iron like mud would not leave any marks on their major's body. Kuzan patted the sword hanging on his waist with his left hand, and a bitter smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Just when the navy was worried about Jinan's safety, they were somewhat surprised to find that the sound of gunfire on the coast had mysteriously stopped. Could it be that something unexpected happened outside? Coast side. A strong wind blew and the smoke and dust dispersed. The pirates were surprised to find that the marine was still standing in mid-air. A strong body was revealed in the torn military uniform, and his wheat-colored skin looked very dazzling in their eyes. How can it be? We were attacked by cannons and guns for such a long time, and it was useless. What kind of monster is this? The pirates, who were feeling fragile, stared at Jinan blankly, their feet retreating uncontrollably. They were scared. They had no intention of resisting this unfathomable enemy. Hey! A sigh reached the pirates' ears, so obvious amid the noise of gunfire. I need to apply for a new uniform again. Those guys will definitely keep nagging me again. It's really troublesome. Quiet. The world suddenly fell into silence, as if time had stopped. The pirates were full of questions. We are attacking so hard, and you are thinking about your tattered military uniform? Forget it, I won't play with you guys anymore. Jinan crossed his arms and stretched. Ah, thank you for massaging me. I haven't felt so comfortable in a long time. As a thank you, I will reluctantly send you to hell. Pirates look more comfortable dead after all. His tone was very calm, just like he was reminiscing about the past with an old friend, but the words he spoke were so bloody. Just as Jinan was speaking, Henry Evan flipped in the air, holding the double swords at his waist in his hands, and rushed towards Jinan. The moves he used were not fancy, but they were extremely fast and vicious. But Jinan seemed not to have noticed the two swords swung towards him at all. Instead, he took a step forward. With a pop sound, Henry Evan's two swords missed and fell heavily on the open ground. But Jinan would not wait for him to continue his attack, and punched Henry Evan hard in the face with his right fist. His face suddenly burst into blood and without even a sound, he flew backwards. When he got up, he found Jinan standing in front of him. The crazy fire in Henry Evan's heart seemed to be extinguished, and he threw the knife to the ground with trembling hands. I surrender. I will never come to the sea again, I swear. I swear to you. Please spare me. Seeing Jinan unmoved, Henry Evan hurriedly said. I still have a lot of treasures. As long as you let me go, I will give it all to you. If you are still not satisfied, I have many beauties on my ship, I will give you everything I have. I can work like a slave for you. I am still useful. The other pirates also remained silent, as if they had accepted their fate. Jinan watched the pirate's performance silently, somewhat curious about what was in this man's mind. Why does he think these things can attract him? Seeing that Jinan did not refute and seemed to be moved, Henry Evan felt a little disdainful. Sure enough. These navy officers are no different from pirates, they are equally greedy for profit and forget their principles. He raised his hands above his head and leaned forward cautiously, looking as if he had completely given up resistance. Chapter 11 The enemy cannot break through the defense. For pirates, treasure is even more important than life. Henry Evan lowered his head and quickly took out a dagger from his arms. Suddenly he let out a sinister laugh. He was only one step away from Jinan. At this distance, he was sure he could kill him with one blow. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for, and also his last chance. This sword was stolen from the treasury by Rocks when the Rocks pirates disbanded. It is indestructible and can cut through anything. Kill me. If this navy cannot be killed with bullets and cannons, then use sharp swords. Thinking of this, Henry Evan licked his lips that were trembling with excitement, stepped out suddenly, and with a sharp whistle, approached Jinan from the side and rear, and stabbed hard at the neck. But in the next second, he was shocked to find that the knife he swung with all his strength had the same feedback as splitting a steel plate, stopping at the skin and unable to move further. Hey, I gave you a chance, but you are useless. Jinan shook his head. He had deliberately revealed such a big flaw, wanting to see if this person could hurt him, but in the end, no surprise happened. Buzz buzz. The dagger that was resting on Jinan's neck kept shaking, unable to move forward. Forget it, I won't play with you guys anymore. Jinan turned around, grasped the blade of the dagger, and pulled it hard. The next moment, the dagger flew up and down in Jinan's hand, as lightly as playing with a wooden sword. This is how you use a knife. Under Henry Evan's horrified gaze, the dagger lightly slashed in the air, and all the pirates in his sight, with Jinan as the center, were instantly separated from their heads and bodies. Blood gushed out, the pirates' expressions still maintained the state before death, but their heads rolled to the ground. In just a moment, the scarlet blood instantly changed the color of the earth. Don't make that expression. I still like your rebellious look at the beginning. Henry Evan gritted his teeth, which were still chattering, and suddenly shouted, You obviously have the ability to kill us right from the start. Gave him hope, but then ruthlessly crushed it. Jinan smiled slightly and stabbed Henry Evan's head with a knife. In your next life, remember to be a good person. No, for evildoers like you, it would be better for you to be livestock in your next life. With the death of Henry Evan, the entire battlefield suddenly became quiet. The wind is so loud today. Listen, there seems to be no sound from the coast for a long time. Did the major win? That should be the case. There are no more shouts of killing from pirates. People gathered together to discuss, but the sailors said nothing, highly focused and paying attention to any movement nearby. Da-da-da. The sound of leather shoes stepping on the road was getting closer and closer. Yo, is everyone okay? His upper body was bare, revealing his wheat-colored skin, and his strong muscles showed beautiful lines under the sunlight. Hiss! The sound of sips was heard all over the square. The shy lady quickly covered her eyes with her hands, but a glimpse of sight still leaked through the narrow gaps between her fingers. Major Jinan. Kuzan stood at attention and saluted. Take your men to clean up the battlefield and gather all the items for the base. We will then reward them according to their merits. Jinan took the coat that Kuzan handed over and put it on. It was broad daylight, so why did he feel a little cold? He was fine just now. Phew, much more comfortable. He took the tea handed to him by the navy and took a sip. You all go and do your work, don't worry about me. He doesn't like being stared at all the time, he feels like a monkey. So I just closed my eyes and took a nap. After some time, Kuzan walked over with a knife in his hand, his shoes stained with a little red. Major, it has been confirmed that all the pirates were killed in one blow. No one is left alive. Jinan opened his eyes and nodded slightly. The person he killed knew all these things. There are no special abilities among these pirates. They are just petty thieves. We can just deal with them easily. Yes, I will write it in the report. Kuzan took out the manual and completed the log of this operation. The Navy will avoid killing people with special abilities directly, but will choose to capture them alive and escort them to Impel Down for strict guard to prevent the devil fruit from ending up elsewhere. There were 0 casualties among our troops and civilians in this operation. Kuzan paused, then continued, all pirates were beheaded, a total of 502 pirates. All the bodies have been cremated. This is the Navy's routine operation for dealing with corpses. If a large number of corpses are buried or discarded anywhere, it will easily spread diseases and pollute water sources after rain. There were 22 women held captive in the cabin. All of them have been rescued and placed on the warship. Their families will be contacted after they return to the branch. Jinan nodded, just take care of these things, and make sure they are settled well. Kuzan hesitated, if someone has no family, how to arrange it? Jinan thought for a moment and said, when the time comes, let's ask those people what they want. If there is really no other way, we can arrange some work within our capacity for those in need in the kingdom of Salbii. Next, let's talk about things that are popular. This is a great harvest. The pirate ship has 500 million baileys, 1,000 taels of gold, and 10 boxes of gems and jade. 650 guns, 50 cannons, and 1,050 cold weapons of various types. Jinan nodded with satisfaction. The harvest was indeed good, and it also comforted his heart that was broken by the system. Ding! Task completed, rewards being distributed. Points plus 2,000 training time plus 1 hour. Host, please keep up the good work, marry a beautiful, rich woman as soon as possible, and reach the peak of your life. Damn you, you have the nerve to show off this little thing? Why don't you just give me some devil fruits or something? What can these little things do? You want a devil fruit for killing a small minion? Then do you want to fly into the sky and stand shoulder to shoulder with the sun in the future? Hey, I have a bad temper. In the past few years, the system has become increasingly unruly. Friendly reminder, the mall has everything you need. As long as you spend points, you can pick any devil fruit you want. Jinan looked at the system mall. Animal fruit, ordinary people form. Door fruit. Dark fruit. Jinan rolled his eyes. He went around the world looking for these fruits, but they were always faster to obtain than in the mall. The more I looked at it, the more frustrated I became. Fortunately, I just blocked the system page. Major Jinan, Captain Kuzan, the team has been fully equipped. May I ask if we are going to return? Let's return to base. Jinan took the lead and walked directly towards the warship, followed by the soldiers lined up behind him, heading towards the port. Behind them were thousands of people who spontaneously saw the sailors off. They were truly grateful that they could live in the waters under Jinan's responsibility. If they lived somewhere else, the grass on their graves would probably be taller than a person. Chapter 12 Training Space. In the cabin on the way back to base, Jinan muttered to himself and opened the training space. The space changed, and in the blink of an eye, he appeared in an unfamiliar place. Please select training content. Jinan thought for a moment and decided to continue to strengthen his physique. Quantitative change will always lead to qualitative change. He didn't believe that he could not break through 80 points. He cannot cultivate haki for the time being. Although he knows the cultivation process, he is not like Luffy, who has a teacher by his side to guide him. Unless he can meet someone who is proficient in haki, in that case, he can create a clone through training space. That copy possesses all of the original's cultivation experience and can also be used as a sparring partner. This is how he learned how to shave and finger gun. Unfortunately, he is now in the South China Sea, where there are very few people who are proficient in haki, let alone those who possess the power of devil fruits. He did it right away after Jinan decided to exercise. The training space automatically changed scenes and turned into an island, which was decorated with a wide variety of training equipment and a special ring-like area for practicing with simulated characters. Your physical talent is too abnormal, the system will increase the amount of training accordingly. Upgrade all items to the limit you can currently adapt to. If it weren't for this system, Jinan felt that he would have reached his peak right from the start, in terms of physical fitness, and it would have been difficult to continue improving. Other skills can be improved by accumulating time, but after eating the Azure Dragon Fruit, ordinary training is no longer effective for him. Jinan did not hesitate and devoted himself to training. In reality, 2 hours passed. After finishing his training time, Jinan walked onto the deck and saw the naval base in front of him. Major Jinan, General Zhang Guo wants to see you. Kuzan ran towards Jinan in a hurry, holding a military den mushi. Answer the phone for me and tell them I'm not here. Jinan gets a headache whenever he sees this den mushi wearing frog glasses. If this phone rings, it will definitely be something bad. Perhaps because they were both from the South China Sea, the old man from the Warring States period somehow noticed him. Although the two have never met, they have interacted quite a few times. But, this is the third time. Kuzan said weakly. Jinan waved his hand. What's wrong with the third time? Just say I'm not here. I already gave this excuse when I called you the second time. Kuzan said with a sullen look. Jinan was a little surprised. Why would you call a third person after I told you so? That guy Zhang Guo had only made 2 phone calls at most before, and he was able to get away with it every time using this excuse. Could it be that there was really something urgent? I let it slip earlier. He told you to answer the third call. Kuzan knew he had done something wrong, and his voice became smaller and smaller. It's okay, give me the den mushi. Jinan knew he couldn't escape, so he took the den mushi from Kuzan and walked towards the cabin. Finally got around to paying attention to me? Major Jin An. The expected furious roar did not happen, and the den mushi faithfully interpreted Sengoku's sarcastic expression. I thought that after you became a major, you looked down on me, the general of the headquarters. Do you want me to give up my position to you? Jinan rolled his eyes. He could tell from what he said that he was a hermaphrodite. You are doing this, do you take me seriously? Have you taken the Navy regulations seriously? Zhang Guo was getting angrier and angrier, and the saliva of den mushi was about to spray on Jin An's face. Silently move the den mushi away from him. Sengoku at the marine headquarters saw Jinan's disgusted expression through den mushi, and his fist hardened. What Jinan didn't notice was that Kuzan and several marines were lying on the door, eavesdropping, with gloating expressions on their faces. The major was caught slacking off again. You. Zhang Guo held his forehead helplessly. When you come to Marineford for your appointment, I'll see how I will. Jinan scratched his ears. He had heard this sentence at least 3 times, and his ears were calloused from hearing it. You should keep your word and give me a promotion quickly. You are just making empty promises in one day. The same position, rights, and status of the headquarters and branches differ by half a level or more. In the room, the conversation between the two finally came to the point. Leonard, who was previously in charge of South China Sea affairs, has reached old age. We have decided to choose someone to temporarily replace him. You can recommend some people to me. Jinan, who had been sitting upright, sank back into the soft sofa and took a sip of the water on the table. After hearing the first half of the sentence, Jinan thought he was going to be promoted. After all this time, I am still a wage earner. This is a serious matter, so we definitely need to be cautious. Zhang Guo's lips trembled as he tried to calm himself. This guy was the kind of person who wouldn't release the eagle until he saw the rabbit. I suggest that I take over this mess. Jinan volunteered without any hesitation. You kid, are you listening to me? We need to investigate. Investigation, understand. Finally, Sengoku couldn't bear it anymore and became furious. He grabbed the den mushi and started to scold her. The sheep eating paper nearby was startled and quickly swallowed the paper in its mouth. This is a notice. A list will be sent to you shortly. Please examine it carefully. Blue. The den mushi that was drooling just now suddenly fell silent. Zhang Guo couldn't stand Jinan and hung up the phone directly. He swore that next time he talked to this kid about something, he would try to resolve it with just one sentence. Otherwise, he would probably die young. Ha ha ha, Zhang Guo, you got humiliated by the kid from Jinan again. A heroic laugh came from outside the office. Without waiting for Zhang Guo to answer, the visitor walked in directly, picked up the senbei on the table and started eating. Zhang Guo put on the mask of pain. After the younger ones had made trouble, the older ones came here to cause trouble. Get out of here. Put down the senbei, I haven't eaten a single bite yet. Sometimes, he really wanted to pick up a knife and chop people. The two were still arguing, and the marine on guard didn't dare to say a word, for fear that he would burst out laughing. Before leaving, Karp glanced and saw a file on the desk. Name, Jinan. Sex, male. Age, 22. Fruit ability, fish-like, mythical fruit, blue dragon form. Experience, 4 years ago, he suddenly appeared in the kingdom of Salbi with Bartholomew the Bear, and joined the navy half a year later. It's really funny that he hung up the phone like this. Jinan wiped the saliva off his face with his hand. He has always been a good young man who cares for his elders. Seeing that Sengoku on the Den Mushi had a stern face, I tried to help him relax, but he ran away after just a few words. Ah, it's hard to be a good person. The people outside the door stared at each other, wondering when the major had become a good person. How come they don't know anything? As expected of Major Jinan, he secretly did good things when we didn't know. Yes. Next time when I'm on the top 10 good men list, I'll definitely bring my wife and vote for Major Jinan. Kuzan quietly moved a little further away from the few people. When these people were talking, he always felt a chill on his spine. Although he was not quite sure what the good thing Major Jinan was talking about, he knew after having been with Jinan for a long time that this good thing was not a good thing. Chapter 13 Patrolling the South China Sea. Phew, I'm full. Jinan let out a long breath and touched his bulging belly. In his other hand he held a stack of materials and fanned them towards his face. One day ago, Jinan received materials sent by the Navy headquarters, which detailed the generals with a certain reputation in the South China Sea Navy. Originally, he was still thinking that the old guy Zhang Guo was quite nice to him and asked him to investigate his competitors. As a result, when he got the materials, he found out that his name was not on the list at all. Someone as handsome, suave, young, rich, and capable as him was not even listed. Only 3 people were highlighted. They were the main targets of this investigation. All 3 of them were colonels. It's really unbearable for my uncle, but intolerable for my aunt. So, under Kuzan's resentful gaze, all matters of the base were entrusted to him. Jinan patted his butt and took a vacation. He asked the big bear who was with Jinny to use his ability to come to this island. This island is a base in charge of one of the colonels. It seems to be well managed and is almost catching up with the kingdom of Salbei. Jinan was resting his chin on his hand, his mind wandering. When he heard people talking around him, he suddenly perked up. Have you heard that someone has mysteriously disappeared in the village to the east? After the man said this, he looked around, found that no one was paying attention, and continued chatting with his friend. That thing, someone just mentioned it. SHH. The restaurant owner came out of the kitchen and put a finger in front of his mouth, signaling them not to talk about this topic anymore. Don't you know that the mouth can cause trouble? This kind of thing is not suitable to be brought up. Everyone was puzzled. Weren't you very happy talking about this before? Why are you so unhappy now? The boss looked mysterious and said, I heard something from the son of my uncle's wife's uncle. People lost interest when they heard this. Every time the boss spoke in this tone, it meant he was about to start bragging. Hey! What do you mean? What I heard this time is really important news. The boss was anxious. Seeing him so serious, people's curiosity was aroused. Then tell me. The Navy headquarters is sending people to patrol the South China Sea. The boss said, Colonel Charlie is spending money to build relationships, hoping to get through this patrol smoothly. Cut. There was a lot of booing in the hotel. Inspections happen once or twice a year, and the boss makes something that is known to everyone sound so mysterious. If you continue like this, we won't dine here again. A customer who was familiar with the boss made a joke. The boss' eyes rolled. Originally, he just wanted to use what happened in the Navy to make these guests stop talking about those sensitive things, but now he felt a little unconvinced. His eyes glared, Don't worry, I haven't finished talking yet. According to the information I received, the missing person was suspected to have been sent to the east. Jinan narrowed his eyes. This is an interesting case. Is it a serial kidnapping case? Then he took out the money from his pocket and put it under the bowl, then slowly left the restaurant. According to what he learned today, the entire island navy is in collusion with each other, and their main goal at present is to pass this inspection safely and hand in an answer sheet that will be acceptable to their superiors. They don't want any unfavorable comments to appear, so they have been controlling public opinion these past 2 days. The boss just now is an example. Those people also knew that if they made any mistakes, they would be stripped of their official uniforms at the very least, and beheaded at the worst. Most of them would be implicated and thrown into jail. What the sailors on the island didn't know was that there was someone like him secretly operating in this patrol. I don't know if there are any honest Navy officers on the island. He was completely unfamiliar with the place and had no idea where to go. He could only try and make mistakes bit by bit. East of this island, what's that over there? Jinan rubbed his forehead and decided to go there first. Jinan circled the east side of the island twice and found nothing unusual. This seemed to be a slum area. People's clothes were patched, they looked listless, and their eyes were dull. Is it better to hide it, or is the information wrong? And this place is really weird. There seem to be a lot of pedestrians on the street, but there is always a sense of incongruity. Yes, in the places he passed by, people's eyes revealed numbness, as if they had been stimulated by something. Who are you? I'm with you. A young navy man walked up to Jinan, pointed a knife at him, his eyes full of hostility. The confrontation between the two was seen by those who passed by. When they saw clearly what the young man was wearing, they pretended not to see anything, quickly looked away and continued doing their own things. They know that anyone wearing this clothing will only bring them misfortune. The young sailor obviously felt those gazes as his body trembled slightly. He lowered his head, somewhat afraid to look at those people. He adjusted his breathing and tried to calm down. Answer me quickly. Jinan ignored the young navy man's words, took a step, appeared behind him, and gently patted the boy's shoulder. Are you the navy in charge of this area? He liked the boy's character, which was strong and pure, with a hint of stupidity. He dared to charge forward without even knowing the strength of his opponent. Just like a student who has not yet been exposed to society, he is full of curiosity about everything and his passion has not yet been extinguished. I asked you first. The young sailor didn't see the other party's movements clearly at all, and fear slowly rose in his heart. But he still chose not to give in. He turned his neck to the right and stared at the man behind him. Looking at the boy's serious eyes, he said, I'm just a businessman passing by here to do market research. Jinan is indeed a businessman, and he passed by this island for investigation. This statement is indeed true. The young marine looked at the hand on his shoulder with a look that said, Are you kidding me? Cough. Jinan coughed lightly and said, You know that pirates are rampant in this world now. If you want to survive, you must have a skill. The boy thought for a while and showed an expression of sudden enlightenment. So that's it. Seeing that the boy was so easily fooled, Jinan himself couldn't believe it. Is this kid missing a string in his brain? Okay, put the knife away first. The navy boy silently put the knife back into the sheath. In front of someone with powerful military force, even if he held the knife, it would be of no use. Jinan wanted to see what the young man looked like, but unfortunately his view was blocked by his military cap. What's your name? Fire burning the mountain. The boy replied. Jinan was thoughtful. The future Lieutenant General Hua Shaishan was actually in the South China Sea. It seems that the South China Sea is really full of talented people. During the Warring States period, Quzhan is now on fire again. Hua Shaishan looked at Jinan in confusion. What was this person thinking? The world of adults is really hard to understand. But the next question Jinan asked made his face change drastically. Where have all the children in this place gone? Chapter 14 The Cruelty of the World. When Hua Shaishan heard the question asked by Jinan, his whole body instantly became stiff. As if he was thinking of something sad, he pulled off his hat and held it tightly in his hand. After seeing the numb expressions of those people, the shame on his face turned into raging anger. You're just a passerby, don't get stuck with these things. His voice was hoarse, and he didn't want anyone to get involved in this mess. Jinan pointed to the east and said, I guess all the answers are over there. He kept observing the expressions of the people around him and found that many people were glancing towards the east. How do you know? Knowing that he had said the wrong thing, Hua Shaishan quickly stopped talking. However, judging from this sentence, it also proves that Jinan's guess was correct. Now are you willing to tell me what happened on this island? Jinan asked. There was a hint of hesitation in Hua Shaishan's eyes. Too many people were affected by this island, and this person's involvement would not change anything. Instead, it would bring danger to this kind-hearted person. Are you a man or not? I'm not afraid of you even if you keep hesitating. What are you thinking about here? Jinan sighed. He thought of the nagging Hua Shaishan when he was young, but he also felt that this child was kind-hearted. Hua Shaishan really considered him as a businessman and was afraid that he would offend someone he couldn't afford to offend. The problem is that he is not a simple businessman. If he did not need to investigate secretly and collect evidence, he would have gone east with a knife in hand. Okay. Then I'll tell you everything I know. Since the person involved has said that, if he continues to hesitate, it will make him seem afraid. He put his hat back on and used it to cover his face. Come with me. We're in this area. The problem here is actually very simple, collusion between officials and businessmen plus collusion between officials, navy, and pirates. The island has been completely invaded by powerful forces. Ordinary people can only leave their fate to fate and have no chance of resistance. Different forces have different demands on ordinary people. Some want power and political achievements, some want money, and some choose to have all of them. The navy burned, killed, and looted the surrounding areas under the banner of pirates and gained wealth. Then he sent out a team of navy, under the pretext of clearing out pirates, killing innocent people to gain merit in exchange for a future. With the help of the navy's protection, the pirates kidnapped children and sold them at high prices to make money. Merchants occupied houses, bought and sold arms, raised prices, and made a fortune. To the east is the pirates' lair. Help me! A girl's heart-wrenching screams could be heard in the distance. The eyes of the people around wavered for a moment, and then as if they remembered something, they all covered their ears with hatred, not wanting to hear any more shouting. Even though Hua Shaishan had seen this scene many times, he still felt extremely painful. He could not blame those who pretended to be deaf and dumb. Because they've all been through this, their families have been taken away from them. You stay here, I'll be back soon. Hua Shaishan drew his knife, said something to Jinan beside him, and then ran away. The direction he was heading was the direction the girl was looking for help. Of course Jinan would not listen to Hua Shao's arrangement. He jumped up and disappeared on the spot. The wooden door of the house where the girl lived was wide open. A group of pirates surrounded the low hut, making disgusting and obscene noises. Brother, please solve it quickly, the brothers also want to stand with us for a while, he he he. Yeah, big brother, the girl I found this time is pretty hot, I can't help myself. The leader laughed and scolded, what the hell are you doing? You only know how to urge us all day. Why isn't anyone rushing to do the real work? You guys go out first, and come in when I'm done. As he said this, he drove a group of people out, closed the door, and without paying any attention to the girl's screams, he slapped her in the face. The girl was slapped and fell on the bed. She was completely stunned and lay there blankly. She even forgot to cry, but tears kept flowing from the corners of her eyes. You ungrateful animal! The man spat, ignoring the girl's reaction and prepared to take off his clothes. Boom boom boom! There was a gentle knock on the door. What the hell are you knocking on? I haven't even taken off my pants yet. The man cursed and swore, thinking that his men were about to rush in first, so he ignored them and wanted to continue with his own business. Boom boom boom! Check the water meter. A strange voice came into the man's ears. If you don't open the door, I'll go in by myself. Jinan pushed open the tightly closed wooden door, and the first thing that caught his eye was the nauseating red. There was no light in the room. The sun had not yet set, but the room was dark. A young girl was lying on the bed, and a shirtless man was looking at the door with a look of surprise. A man was lying beside the bed, covered in blood, his body still twitching. If he wasn't rescued, he would die. Did you hurt anyone? The elegant smile on his face suddenly turned bone-chillingly cold. He came here as fast as he could, but he didn't expect to be a little slow. Hey? Why are these pirates lying on the ground? Hua Shaishan finally came to the outside of the cabin. The first thing he saw was the pirate lying outside the house. Just as he was wondering, Jinan's voice came from the house. Go find a doctor as fast as you can, remember to be quick. Jinan simply left the pirate leader aside and went to stop the bleeding of the girl's father. The wound is not deep and the blood loss is not too great, so the patient can be saved. Hua Shaishan ran into the house and saw the mess on the ground. He also understood why he was asked to call a doctor. Got it, I'll be there right away. He saw the shadow of his boss in Jinan. No, this aura was many times stronger than that of his boss, which made him choose to obey orders. After Jinan finished the first aid, he took off his coat, covered the girl with it, and helped her tidy up her messy hair. Don't be afraid, I'm here. Sir, I don't know what I did wrong to make you want to kill me. I will definitely change. The pirate leader prostrated himself, his body shaking uncontrollably. The brother outside the house died without making any sound, which made him sweat coldly. He thought that he had provoked the man in front of him without knowing it. No need to apologize to me. Die, Jinan gave him a look of disgust. The pirate leader looked at Jinan in confusion, not knowing what he meant. Jinan took out the den mushi and asked, are you from the east? The man nodded, yes, we are all Lord Belia's men, responsible for coming here to get some supplies. Alas, it is true that all crows are black. Pirates do not engage in production, but are only interested in pleasure. They talk all the time about freedom and friendship. They hold parties when they are happy and they hold parties when they are sad. Most people only see the enjoyment and freedom of pirates, drifting on the sea and living a life of luxury. But no one knows how many people have been robbed by them and how many people have lost their families because of them. This is the sadness of an era and also the sadness of the people living in this world. Jinan recorded everything with Den Den Mushi as evidence and kicked the man's head to pieces. Chapter 15, Crocodile Pirates. You executioner! Murderer! You will be punished! Do not kill me! Who can save me? The chaotic and noisy sounds echoed in Jinan's ears. Hua Shaishan followed Jinan with a confused look on his face. He had never experienced such an exciting thing in his life. He actually followed a man who didn't even have a weapon, and the two of them broke into the pirate's lair. It's so noisy! Jinan moved his lips slightly, and his indifferent voice sentenced these pirates to death. With a creak, the tightly closed door was pushed open, and a man holding a mace walked out. You succeeded in making me angry. Belia, the captain of the crocodile pirates, stared at Jinan. I am Captain Belia, whose bounty is 1,200 million berries. Belia's voice suddenly became low, he bent down slightly, his head became long and narrow, and his eyes glowed with cold light and turned into golden vertical pupils. His body suddenly doubled in size, and his height of more than 2 meters instantly lengthened. Scales covered his entire body as his body changed, and his arms turned into claws covered with scales. The whole person turned into a crocodile with a big mouth with sharp fangs. A person with fruit ability? No wonder he is able to cooperate with the navy. Ha 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 ha. Belia laughed wildly, you're unlucky if you mess with me. I'm a crocodile man who ate the crocodile fruit. The claws scratched the cement floor, a sharp sound was heard, and a neat cut was made on the floor. Even though I can find more men if I lose them, you really pissed me off. He pointed his claws at Jinan and roared, I will tear you into pieces, make you into minced meat, and feed you to those damned untouchables. You step back first. Jinan grabbed Hua Shaishan's collar and threw him back. Don't worry, neither of you can leave. Whoosh! Belia slapped his tail and his whole body rushed out in an instant. The floor cracked inch by inch because it could not withstand the force. His big mouth appeared in front of Jinan in a moment. At this speed, a normal person would not be able to react at all. If he was really bitten, half of his body would probably be gone. Boom! Just as the excitement in Belia's eyes was about to overflow, he felt a huge force hitting his scaly body. His body was like being hit by a boat, without any pause, he was thrown far away. Jinan punched Morris into the air, then took a step forward and chased after him. Boom! 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 Jinan only used his plain fists, punching the scales one after another, the scales that should have been impenetrable even by bullets. It had long been peeled off from the body because it could not bear it. That's it. Looking at Belia whose breath was getting weaker and weaker, Jinan's eyes showed no sadness or joy, and the corners of his mouth raised, revealing a chilling smile. You were quite crazy just now. If you keep yelling, I will let you go downstairs to meet your grandmother. Every word represented a fist smashing towards him, beating his hard body into mud. Belia twisted his body and struggled hard. But no matter how hard he tried, he could not shake Jinan's body. All his strength was like hitting cotton, and it had no effect at all. He collapsed. His invincible ability was completely ineffective in front of this person. Can you imagine? He was just staying in his room, drinking and eating meat, and suddenly someone came to his door. Is there still justice in this world? Is there still law in this world? The most important thing is that he can't beat. Why did it turn out like this? He looked at Jinan, but saw no expression on Jinan's face, as if in that man's eyes he was just a speck of dust, unable to shake the mountain at all. In the eyes of the pirates, their captain was like a wooden man, motionless, allowing the executioner to beat him. Da-da-da! Protect the captain! The pirates who were ignored by Jinan raised their guns again and fired at Jinan. It's useless. Dang dang dang! Hua Shaishan raised his knife and shaved it directly in front of Jinan to prevent these pirates from disturbing him. Your opponent is me. As long as I'm standing here, you can't get through. He has been hating those damn pirates like Hua Shaishanran for a long time. This time, he finally got his revenge and he felt so happy. Even if he died here, it would be a worthy death. Just when Hua Shaishan was full of ambition, A hand pushed him aside. Boy, please make way for me first. Jinan walked up to Hua Shaishan with a pile of muddy belia in his hand. Is this the end? Hua Shaishan was confused. He is a user of devil fruit ability, a big shot that many people can only dream of. And from beginning to end, it only took a minute. And he hadn't finished his impassioned words yet, so it was very uncomfortable to be held back like this. Hua Shaishan was a little upset, but he still admired her more. He hopes to reach this level one day. Okay, let me say this one last time. This is the ultimatum. All pirates, you are surrounded by me. Put down your weapons, give up resistance, and anyone who disobeys will suffer the same fate as this man. As he said that, Jinan threw the person in his hand in front of those people like throwing away garbage. These idiots are easy to control. Just destroy the capital they are proud of and say a few polite words to them. For the sake of their own lives, they will definitely give up resistance. Just as he thought, the pirates, who were originally in a mess, threw their weapons on the ground, put their hands on their heads, and squatted down obediently after hearing what Jinan said. Seeing that the pirates were so obedient, Jinan stopped paying attention to them. I spared his life. People with special abilities are really troublesome. The trouble here means that you can't be too harsh and cause the death of the ability user. The dead ability user and the living ability user will be in a completely different situation when it comes to receiving the bonus. Jinan looked at his blood-stained hands with some disgust. He wished he would not have used his fists. Hua Shaishan, do you know any other navy men like you on this island? Jinan didn't quite trust the navy here, but looking at the densely packed pirates in front of him, he still chose to compromise. It was impossible for this island to have less than a handful of good navy. There are still many prisoners here, and we need some manpower. Yes. Hua Shaishan nodded, there are still some people in the navy who are dissatisfied with these pirates. Jinan nodded, call someone you trust to clean up the mess. The navy here has a higher rank than him, so he can't control them. Let the people in the headquarters handle it. He took the military den mushi out from inside his clothes and dialed the number directly. Chapter 16 You stole my senbei again. Hello? What's up, Jinan? A deep male voice came from the other end of the phone, and he seemed to be in a bad mood. Garb. You're taking my senbei again. You have so many senbei, what's wrong with giving me some? This stuff has a very short shelf life, I'm doing this for your own good. An indistinct sound of sophistry came from the den mushi, accompanied by a crunching chewing sound. Get out of here. Are you just taking a little? You've dug up all my secrets. Jinan also realized that the timing of his call was a bit wrong and glanced at the people around him. Hua Shaishan's mouth twitched. He recognized the identity of the person on the other end of the phone, Admiral Sengoku of the Navy headquarters in the hero garb. Did he know something he shouldn't know? The pirates had the same expression, their eyes were wandering and their bodies kept shrinking back, for fear of making a sound and upsetting the boss, thus getting implicated and being slapped to death. Cough. Jinan coughed dryly and cleared his throat, indicating that the call was not disconnected. What are you doing? There was silence on the other end of the phone for a moment, and then Zhang Guo's majestic voice continued to come. I have almost finished what you asked me to do. Jinan said directly. Zhang Guo was a little confused, what's the matter? General Zhang Guo, are you kidding me? You forgot what we arranged yesterday. Jinan said unhappily. He was somewhat suspicious whether he had been fooled or not, as he was working so hard and actively. You're here to make fun of me again, aren't you? Do you think I don't know that it takes a whole day to travel from the kingdom of Salbi to the person closest to you, even if you take a warship? Zhang Guo shook his head and sighed. The young people today are completely different from them back then. Back then, he took one step at a time and never took shortcuts. Tell him I didn't get it done. Jinan was convinced. Why is it that no one believes what you say these days? Where has the trust between people gone? Following Jinan's eye signal, the pirates reluctantly spoke to the den mushi with a somewhat helpless tone. We are pirates, we're caught. The fire on the mountain is burning and these people are covering their faces. The key point is that they didn't say a word. You're just going to catch a bunch of pirates to fool me. Zhang Guo said in a bad tone. Roll. Now, Jinan is becoming more and more annoyed with these pirates. I came to the island where the colonel belonged and found that the navy and pirates were colluding to oppress the civilians. As for how I got here, you should know it very well. Jinan never concealed his relationship with Dakshang, and those people in the Navy headquarters knew it as soon as they investigated. Zhang Guo slapped his forehead. He was so busy arguing with Garp that he forgot all the other things. In other words, he was too excited. Cough. Zhang Guo used a light cough to cover up his embarrassment. No, this guy is next to the pirate? Then the sound of him arguing with Garp just now. His lifelong reputation is now ruined, in the hands of two bastards. Anyway, send someone here to handle these matters first. Jinan continued, based on the evidence I have so far, the person in charge of this island is definitely the mastermind. As for the other islands, you can send someone to investigate. Jinan feels a little tired. Wherever he goes, people die. Is it his problem or the world's problem? Sometimes he really wants to turn into a blue dragon directly so that he can solve a problem with just one breath. But no, he is a navy and needs to be responsible for the civilians. Even if there is only one civilian in the pirate's lair, he will choose to find that person in person. Okay, I'll send someone over there. Zhang Guo rubbed his brows, looking a little confused as to why the navy would go against justice. Since the establishment of the Rocks Pirates, the world has become increasingly chaotic, leaving the navy's top brass helpless. Do the people below really carry out the orders they give? It seems that this kid Jinan is doing quite well in these matters. Judging from the evaluation, he is also a person who works seriously. There is only one reason why I don't want to entrust Jinan with an important task. He is very likely someone who escaped from the Valley of Gods. There is no direct evidence to prove Jinan's identity. He did not exist among the aboriginals, nor was he listed in the slave list. Some people above do not want this kind of instability to enter the navy and affect the balance of the world. General Zhang Guo, I hope to take a vacation during this period of time. Jinan said. Zhang Guo's brows twitched. Here it comes, this familiar feeling comes again. He took a deep breath and forced himself to suppress the urge to exhale fragrance. If possible, I really want to transfer Jinan to my side, so that I can scold him when I am in a good mood, and scold him to his face when I am in a bad mood. Just thinking about that kind of life is exciting. Zhang Guo said in a low voice and with a serious expression. The South China Sea is in need of people right now. You can't leave. Besides, the matter has not been concluded yet. As the person directly responsible, you must take responsibility. Jinan raised his eyebrows. Didn't he trick Zhang Guo into sending people to deal with it? Why did he have to be in the forefront? He chose to come to the pirates first because pirates are easy to deal with, and there must be direct evidence here to prove the crimes committed by the Navy. If we go directly to the Navy to investigate, we will definitely encounter various accidents. Who would believe that a person who could climb to the highest position in a region didn't have some skills? I understand everything you said, General Sengoku. But a small major like me can't really help much, and will only hinder those big shots. I think it's better for me to just quit. What Jinan said was true. If he were really in charge of this matter, he would not care about the identities of those who did bad things. No matter if they were nobles, sailors, or civilians, he would punish them as long as they did something wrong. Zhang Guo was silent for a while, thinking carefully about what Jinan said. With Jinan's personality, he is indeed not suitable for doing this kind of thing. He still remembered that the first time he spoke to Jinan was because this little guy single-handedly killed a pirate group of 1,000 people. In order to show respect for the genius, he was assigned by Marshal Kong to contact Jinan. He still remembers what the young man said at that time, since I came to this world, I have never done anything that goes against my beliefs and makes me regret, and I will never do that in the future. Just as Sengoku was lost in his memories, a discordant voice came from the Den Den Mushi. Of course, if you give me the title of Colonel, maybe I will agree to your request. Jinan still wants to fight for it again. He must climb to the top so that no one will control him. Colonel is a hurdle. He has been at the rank of Major for a year and is still stuck there. Beautiful memories were ruthlessly shattered, get out of here. Okay. Jinan decisively cut off the connection of the Den Den Mushi and put it in his pocket. The corners of his mouth slightly raised, and his promotion was secured. Navy Headquarters. Zhang Guo hung up the phone, and the anger on his face quickly subsided. Carp, you should go to the South China Sea. Take the appointment letter with you. Chapter 17 Kerno. Naval Base Headquarters. Really? I told them to be quiet recently. It's already this time, and you're still causing trouble for me. Carnot sat on a soft leather seat, a cigar in his hand, facing the window and overlooking his territory. "I'm very sorry, Colonel Carnot." The Navy soldier saluted as he stood in front of the desk. "We are investigating those who spread rumors everywhere. Controlling public opinion is a tactic they often use. As long as everyone says that the island is peaceful and tranquil, those who come to patrol will not conduct in-depth investigations. When those people leave, give them some money as a token of your appreciation. This way both sides benefit and no one offends anyone." Finally, a world was achieved where only civilians were hurt. "But, don't you think the attitude of the townspeople has changed a little recently?" He crossed his legs, smoked a cigarette, and glanced casually at the Navy at the table. "Yes." The Navy's forehead was covered with sweat. "There has indeed been more contact between the townspeople recently. Because the townspeople are trying to find a way to raise money." No. This is not the main reason." Carnot shook his head gently. "It's because they don't respect me enough." Cold sweat kept dripping from the Navy's forehead. He stood there without daring to breathe and did not dare to move at all. "You guys really know how to cause trouble for me." Carnot shook his head in dissatisfaction. "By the way, is there a rat coming to my place?" Recently, he has been closely monitoring the port, but he didn't expect that someone would still sneak in. "You should have killed that man, right?" The Navy officer was surprised. This is not good, Colonel. That man should not be guilty of a crime punishable by death." "You can't do it. You're not new here." Carnot stood up and said, "Let me tell you, I'm the boss here." "In that case, who gave you the courage to talk back to me? Just go ahead and kill me when I tell you to. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" He pulled out the big knife on the table, swung it down, and knocked the Navy to the ground. "Someone, drag him out, so he doesn't get in my way." Carnot took out a tissue, wiped the blood off the knife, and threw the paper on the ground casually. "Power is the most wonderful thing in the world. It makes people intoxicated and unable to extricate themselves, and allows people to do whatever they want. Sorry to bother you." Seeing the man in front of him so intoxicated, Jinan couldn't bear to disturb him. After all, this might be the last time this person exercised his hegemony. "Do you know what it means to disturb me?" Carnot raised his sword. Jinan thought for a while and replied, "Does it mean that I disturbed you? Has anyone ever told you that you are an irritating person?" As if he was too excited, the muscles on his face twitched, and the fire of anger in his heart destroyed everything. "I advise you not to do anything." Jinan was not panicked at all, and even wanted to laugh. Why is this person so quiet when he's angry, just like a gorilla? If it were someone else, they would have jumped up and down and threatened to fight to the death. "I'm a naval captain. No matter what happens, I will not act on impulse," Carnot said with some pride. "Then let's talk about what happened between you and the pirates." It was the first time that Jinan met a prisoner who was so easy to communicate with, and he immediately became interested. "Me? Pirate?" Carnot didn't react for a moment. "That's right, it's you and those pirates on the east side of this island." Jinan nodded affirmatively. "It's a win-win relationship," said Carnot bluntly. He was not panicked at all, as he had already recognized the person in front of him as the rat he had observed before. This is his territory, and no one can leave here without his order. "I think you are too confident." Jinan turned the key in his hand. "This is the key to your safe, I suppose. I'd like to see what you've saved." "The Navy is responsible for defending peace. You have already become a colonel. These should be the medals you have won over the years." Jinan laughed, took the key and approached the safe. Carnot frowned. Although he was confident that he could control the people in the room, he still didn't want anyone to see the things in the safe. "My friend, don't be impatient. I'll show you something good first." Boom! Before he could finish his words, he had already pulled the trigger of the gun in his hand. Looking at the fallen Jinan, he showed a disdainful smile. "You are such a jerk, and you want to learn to be a spy. Strange, why hasn't anyone come to move the body in such a long time? These guys are getting more and more outrageous." He opened the office door and walked out. Strangely, the corridor was still very quiet, as if he was the only one left in the entire building. "Wow! That's rich." Suddenly, there was a sound of rummaging through drawers in the office. Carnot hurried back, and after seeing the people inside, he was stunned. "How are you still alive?" Jinan took out a deformed bullet and said, "Oh, this thing is of poor quality. I didn't feel anything when it hit me." He wiped it and threw it over casually. "Be careful, I don't have the strength to control it." Whoosh! There was a strange sound and a bullet whizzed past Gernot's ear. Gernot stretched out his fingers and gently brushed his cheek. The blood on his fingers was extremely glaring. It was obvious that he was no match for the young man, and if the other party wanted to kill him, just one finger would be enough. He panicked a little and shouted, "Who are you? A man of your strength is here just to tease me." Jinan smiled and said, "You think too highly of yourself. It's rare to find someone as narcissistic as you. Go to the prison and you should be able to bring a lot of laughter to your fellow inmates." Gernot was so angry that his face turned pale. He took a deep breath and his teeth were almost broken. When had he ever been teased like this before? The person in front of him didn't even take him seriously at all. "I got all these things legally." In order to cope with inspections, he had already legalized most of his property, so he was not afraid of being criticized in this regard. "I just praised you for being rich, but I didn't say your money came from illegal sources. Why are you so anxious? Besides, I already have the evidence of your crime in my hands." Gernot was puzzled and asked, "Then why are you here? If you have something that can prove my crime, why don't you just report it?" "Because I want to borrow your base to wait for someone. When that person arrives on this island, the first step is to come here. It is much more convenient to wait here. You don't have anything else to do anyway, so why not wait with me? When the time comes, I will give you a ride." Anyone in the Navy who can uphold justice is worthy of admiration. But there are many people like Gernot. Desires can make people give up many things until they are blinded. Chapter 18 Garp arrives. Tread, tread, tread. Dense and orderly footsteps sounded. "Ha ha ha ha." A cynical laugh echoed in the street. "Vice Admiral Garp. Slow down. This mission is very simple, there's no need to rush." His subordinates, who had long been left behind by him, began to complain. They didn't know why their lieutenant general had suddenly changed his personality. He used to be lazy and slack, but they didn't expect that he would go against his usual behavior and rush to the front today. "You don't understand. It's rare to meet someone who shares the same ideals as you." Garp was now extremely excited, as Jinan was really just what he wanted. He was already imagining partnering with that kid in the future, going to Zhangguo for a free meal together, and then making Zhangguo so mad that he would be fuming. It would be so interesting. It's still that branch. Jinan had taken over the office for his own use, and the colonel was assigned to live in another room. The main point is that a cuckoo takes over the magpie's nest. He lay on the leather seat like a salted fish, with his eyes slightly closed. "Major Jinan, all the pirates have been arrested," Hua Shaishan reported respectfully. When he learned about Jin An's identity, he was extremely excited. This gentleman was the idol of the entire South China Sea Navy, without a doubt. Many people heard about Jinan's deeds, which strengthened their beliefs and made them join the Navy without hesitation. Unfortunately, things went against one's wishes. There are still only a few people like Jinan in the Navy. Most people only care about their own interests and don't care about the lives of others. But the other criminals were not very cooperative. Hua Shaishan was a little angry. Those people had clearly committed crimes, but they were still so arrogant and didn't take them, the Navy, seriously at all. "You mean the nobles?" Jinan knew with just a little thought who were the uncooperative people. The nobles in this world were so lawless. "Don't worry about them, just lock them up and release them after they have redeemed themselves. I'll take responsibility if anything goes wrong. To deal with these people, you have to be more cruel than them. Once they know they are afraid, they will behave themselves. It seems that the people sent by our department have arrived." Suddenly, Jinan realized something, a smile appeared on his stern face, and he stood up and walked towards the office door. "Major Jinan." Hua Shaishan's expression changed slightly. "Let's go out and greet them. The one we are waiting for has arrived." Garp outside the door raised his eyebrows. This little guy has a good perception. It seems that what Zhangguo said was right. He is indeed a promising talent. I didn't expect Vice Admiral Garp to come in person. It really brings honor to our humble home. Jinan was also a little surprised. He originally thought that the headquarters would at most send a major general, but he didn't expect to send this great god. Since Garp teamed up with Roger to defeat Rox in the Valley of the Gods 4 years ago, he has become famous, worshipped by countless Navy officers, and given the title of Navy Hero. Jinan didn't expect that his first meeting with this big shot would be like this. Garp stretched out his hand and shook Jin An's hand. I have always heard Zhang Guo mention you, saying that there is a new person with great potential in their South China Sea. Now that I have seen you, Zhang Guo is right. Jinan was not surprised by praise or criticism. My superiors, thank you for your praise. I am still far from being good enough. He has climbed up from the grassroots level step by step to his current position and has seen too many scenes like this. Now he can apply what he has learned flexibly without any sense of awkwardness. I heard that you have a few friends who are also very capable. When are you going to invite them to join the Navy? Garp really hopes to strengthen the Navy's strength. Although he hates some people within the Navy, he still wants to add more fresh blood to the Navy. His strength has long surpassed that of an admiral, but he has been unwilling to increase his military rank because he looks down on those in the world government and does not want to work for those scum. Jin An's eyes flashed, and he knew that Garp was talking about Desyong and the others. That depends on their ideas, and they are not yet adults. It won't be too late to consider these things when they are adults. To him, Big Bear and the others are his friends, and everyone has the right to choose their own life, and others do not need to interfere. Is that so? Then let's talk about it later. Garp didn't care and laughed. Jinan nodded and continued, I think Vice Admiral Garp has other things to do this time. Ha ha ha, look at my memory. Garp's face changed, and he suddenly became serious. Major Jinan is under the order of Admiral Sengoku of the Navy headquarters. Jinan stood at attention and saluted, here. After discussion at this headquarters, we are now appointing Major Jinan to be promoted to the rank of Colonel and be in charge of South China Sea affairs. This appointment was completely beyond Jinan's expectations. He had thought that given Zhang Guo's personality, the most he could get was a promotion, but he didn't expect that there would be something even better attached. Congratulations, kid. Cap patted Jinan on the shoulder and encouraged him, you must work hard in the future and do more good things for the people of Nanhai. No problem. I will make sure that the South China Sea becomes the best sea area. Jinan looked confident. Not only does he want to make the South China Sea suitable for living, he also wants pirates to never dare to set foot in these waters. With this appointment, he could finally open schools all over the South China Sea, so that the younger children would have something to do and wouldn't have to think about going out to sea all day. Let them feel the fear of being dominated by learning. Jinan was a man who had been through the rain, so he chose to tear down the roof. Suddenly, Garp quietly approached Jinan and whispered in his ear, boy, when you go to Marineford in the future, I will take you to seek revenge on Zhang Guo. Jinan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't expect that this was how he was seen in Garp's eyes. Vice Admiral Garp, let's not talk about this kind of thing anymore. It's not easy for Admiral Sengoku either. Garp was a little skeptical, I saw it last time. Zhang Guo was talking to you on the phone and suddenly his face turned red and his neck became thick. Don't tell me that you didn't do it. Jinan stiffened his neck and said, I was arguing with reason and fully exchanging opinions with the warring States General. It's normal to get a little excited occasionally. Really? Garp was still a little skeptical. I said we should go eat senbei together next time, but you are not helpful. Garp muttered. Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. Garp changed the subject and said, leave the Navy and nobles to me, and just shoot the other pirates. What? Jinan couldn't quite keep up with Garp's train of thought, but he quickly reacted. He turned to Hua Shaishan and said, go and divide those people into 3 groups, and then let Vice Admiral Garp take them away. Roger that. Hua Shaishan, who was feeling very uneasy, felt as if he had been pardoned after hearing the order. He quickly left the place, wiping a cold sweat as he left. Vice Admiral Garp's words were too scary. Okay, then I'll go around the island first and contact you via Den Mushi when the time comes. He has always been a person who can't sit still. Staying in the office would suffocate him to death. Ding! Congratulations to the host for setting off on a special mission. Hey? Jinan was shocked. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation. Have a sparring match with Garp, and try to make him use half of his strength. Reward, training space cap model, strength depends on the power the host lets cap use, training space usage time. Awarded based on task completion. Additional rewards, armament haki, observation haki awakening. Chapter 19, First Fight with Garp. Have you heard, young Master Jinan, Oh no, Colonel Jinan has challenged Vice Admiral Garp to a duel. There have always been people challenging Vice Admiral Garp. What's the big deal? Wait. Was it Colonel Jinan who initiated it? It's strange. I've never heard of Colonel Jinan challenging others. Have you ever thought that it's because there is no opponent in the South China Sea that Colonel Jinan can challenge? Hiss. Hearing you say that, it seems to be true. In that case, I have to watch this competition. Let's go and see together. The entire naval base was filled with laughter. The mountain that was pressing on them was finally removed, and since they hadn't encountered such an interesting thing for a long time, everyone wanted to join in the fun. Garp is ready to fight, and his iron fist of love is about to come out again today. He said to Jinan, who was doing warm-up exercises opposite him. My fist hurts a lot. Are you prepared? Kaplan laughed. He had defeated countless opponents with these iron fists. It was also with these iron fists that he earned the title of hero. He has his own pride, and every attack he has made so far has been against a strong enemy. Ordinary people don't need him to take action. Thank you, Vice Admiral Garp, for giving me this opportunity to hand over my phone. Even without the system task, Jinan really wanted to try fighting with Garp. The opportunity to fight against the most powerful people in the world is something that many people cannot get no matter how hard they try. Jinan directly drew out his goose feather knife. He did not dare to be careless in front of Garp. After seeing the knife in Jinan's hand, even Garp, who doesn't use a knife, felt his eyes brighten. You have a nice knife. After saying that, he took off all the clothes on his upper body, revealing his strong muscles. I heard Vice Admiral Garp has never eaten a devil fruit. Not only the Navy came to watch the competition, but some well-informed people in the town also came. Yes, everyone in the Navy knows about this. Vice Admiral Garp is very strong. The watching Navy responded enthusiastically. I want to be a sailor when I grow up. Some younger children had longing looks on their faces. Although they didn't know who the two people on the field were, they were eager to protect the people around them and also longed to receive attention from others. The Navy officer next to him puffed out his chest with pride when he heard this. What they are proud of is not their naval identity, but the fact that the Navy is recognized by others. To this day, pirates are still the goal of most children in this world. And now, because of that adult, the Navy is also regarded as a target by some children, and I believe there will be more in the future. Compared to Garp, who was born in the East China Sea, people from the South China Sea would be more familiar with Jinan. Over a period of more than 3 years, that man participated in and organized the Navy, and eliminated more than 20 pirate groups of all sizes. He always led the charge in every battle, charging to the front line against pirates. His brave fighting style attracted the attention of the Navy headquarters in just a few years. From this, we can see that his potential is no less than that of his predecessors such as Sengoku and Zephyr. Shave. Jinan rushed out like the wind, picked up the long knife in his hand and went straight to Garp. The fight has begun, someone exclaimed. Garp spread his wings like an eagle, raised his fist and pounced towards Jinan at the same time. Under the sunlight, his fist seemed to be covered with a layer of light. He did not dodge and went head-on with the long sword. Everyone only felt a gust of wind coming, and their bodies swayed uncontrollably. The venue was spacious, enough for them to move around in. After a successful attack, Garp did not give up and continued to attack Jinan with his fist. Facing Garp's punch, Jinan not only did not retreat, but took a step forward in the astonished eyes of everyone, quickly blocked the fist with the knife in his right hand, and slapped hard with his left hand, actually neutralizing all of Garp's attacks. Good job, boy! Garp praised. Just when Jinan had just managed to resolve the attack, Garp suddenly moved his body backward, then clenched his fists and suddenly rushed towards Jinan's face. Garp used his fists to perfection, with heavy punches and such a powerful force that no one dared to resist him. At the same time, his body, strengthened by the azure dragon fruit, became extremely resistant to attacks, and he leaped forward fearlessly. However, the gap in strength between the two sides was too great, and Jinan was still unable to contend with Garp's punches. After receiving a punch head-on, Jinan flew backwards and stabbed the ground with his knife to neutralize the huge force. Call. Exhaling a breath from his mouth, Jinan realized the power of Garp's iron fist, but this instead aroused his competitive spirit. When it comes to fighting between men, physical combat is the most exhilarating. Crackling. Jinan's face became serious, he clenched his fists, and a surge of energy began to brew in his body. Not bad. Garp stood quietly by and watched Jinan gather strength, praising him. They were just sparring and waiting for the other to use his full strength, which was understandable. Boom! Suddenly, the ground under Jinan's feet cracked and continued to expand outward. A cyan gas swirled gently around his body. This was his strongest state in human form. This kid actually has this kind of energy in his body. Cap was shocked by the power erupting from Jinan's body, and then a hint of fighting spirit rose in his eyes. Breaking the army. A green gas wrapped around the long sword, and then the sword was swung out. Swish! All eyes were now focused on the knife that Jinan swung, and this time, they seemed to hear the sound of a dragon's roar accompanying it. Click! The glass on the doors and windows of the base all shattered at this moment and fell to the ground. Garp's fist looked plain, but in fact it contained the power to crush boulders. His eyes did not waver as his fist went straight to Jinan's abdomen. One of their attacks was loud and powerful, while the other was simple and unpretentious. Boom! The sword energy and fist hit each other's body accurately at the same time, and a huge roar was heard. The sound was deafening. Jinan's sword stopped on Garp's skin wrapped in domineering aura, unable to cause any damage. Unlike Garp who was calm and composed, Jinan fell to the ground trembling like a shrimp out of water, with his body bent at 90 degrees to relieve the pain in his stomach. Ouch! Garp screamed, I was too excited and used too much force. Looking at Jinan's condition, he knelt on one knee with self-blame and checked Jinan's physical condition. I'm fine. Jinan said this in a trembling voice, with a trace of blood silently flowing from the corner of his mouth. I felt extremely bitter in my heart. It's over, I've lost face so badly this time. Whoa! When the battle came to an end, the entire venue was suddenly filled with loud applause and cheers. Only now did they understand how terrifying the strength of the naval officers was. Ordinary people can only judge strength by the damage caused in battle. Moreover, they didn't use their full strength. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the mission. Chapter 20, First High-Level Meeting in the South China Sea. At the moment of receiving the reward, Jinan felt that his perception seemed to have become stronger. He could easily sense every move of the people in the square. It seems that you have awakened a new ability. Garp exclaimed in admiration. From what he could see so far, this kid was simply an incredible genius. He was only in his 20s, but he had already reached this level. He had a bright future ahead of him. After resting for a while, Jinan felt the pain in his abdomen eased a little, so he wanted to try to stand up. After seeing that he was not seriously ill, Garp also stood up and extended a hand to Jinan. Without hesitation, he held Garp's hand, then stood up with Garp's help. Jinan looked at Garp with a smile on his face. Next time I have a chance, I will ask you for advice again. Through this fight, Jinan discovered that he was still far from being the world's top powerhouse. Competing with experts is one of the best ways to improve. Another way to improve faster is to fight between life and death. There is great terror between life and death. If you can overcome it, you can make great progress in a day. Keep working hard, Jinan. You now have the strength to travel the seas, but you must remember that there are always people better than you. You just realized Haki, right? If you go to the Marine headquarters, you can look for Zephyr. He has a different understanding of Haki. Work hard to train this power, and it will take you one step further. Then, you will be able to truly step onto the stage constructed by this world. As for the illusory domineering aura, only Sengoku had awakened that power in the entire navy. However, there was still a glimmer of hope in Cap's eyes, thinking that maybe this little guy could do it. Jinan was somewhat happy to receive Garp's message, but he felt that he would be better if there was a girl who cared about him now. Garp sneezed beside him. Zhang Guo is thinking about me again. He scratched his head and then put these things behind him. Colonel Jinan, you are awesome. Looking at Jinan who walked to the edge of the venue, Hua Shaishan laughed and gave him a thumbs up. People in the navy are very clear about Garp's strength, so they will naturally give the greatest praise to Jinan for being able to fight with Garp. Thank you. Jinan rubbed his stomach and rolled his eyes, then sighed as he looked at the burning mountain without opening his eyes. He traveled through time too early, and he didn't know many things during this period, and most of his acquaintances were not born yet. This is so painful. Boy, do you still want to set up your base in the kingdom of Salbi? Cap thought for a moment and asked. Jinan nodded without hesitation, of course, that's the place I'm most familiar with. And most of his properties are in that place. Garp reminded, but the Solbay Kingdom naval base doesn't seem to be as big as this one. It doesn't matter. I'll expand it myself when the time comes. Besides, I think the current size is enough. Jinan didn't care. There was no need to spend so much time thinking about the workplace. Karp said nothing more. You take a rest first. I will arrange for someone to send the prisoner away first. As he spoke, he slowly walked away amid the cheers of the people. Jinan looked at the devastated training ground and said, "It will probably cost a lot of money to repair this. Report to the colonel, it will probably cost several 100,000 baileys to repair it." The navy in the base replied. This was damaged by him and Garp, so they won't have to pay for the repairs. Turning back to look at the place where Garp disappeared, Garp couldn't have run so fast just because of this incident. Naval Base Conference Room. This is the place the Navy visits most often, and all matters big and small are decided here. So this is a relatively important place and ordinary people cannot enter here. In this hall, a group of Navy men sat around a table. The person sitting in the first seat was naturally Jinan, who had just been promoted to colonel of the headquarters. Sitting next to him were all figures of certain weight in the South China Sea. The atmosphere in the conference room was not good. Some people in coats were glaring at Jinan, who was sitting in the first seat. Many people who couldn't sit at the table looked at the not-so-good atmosphere and chose to stand quietly by the side. When did the South China Sea become like this, where even a young boy can bully us? As soon as a naval colonel opened his mouth, some people glared at him angrily. Jinan waved his hands at his men. "Aren't you the ones who decide whether or not you will be ridden?" After hearing Jinan's words, those people became even angrier, and their hands trembled as they pointed at Jinan, but they were unable to refute. "I can sit here because I have the ability and strength." Jinan glanced at the officers sitting down. "If you are dissatisfied, you can stand up and speak." The people below all knew about the fight between this young man and Garp, so naturally they didn't dare to stand up. "Where is the person who spoke earlier? Why doesn't he stand up?" Jinan said lightly. "Colonel Jinan, I was impulsive." The colonel who had just mocked Jinan took a deep breath and whispered that he had indeed been inconsiderate before, which led to him being punished by Jinan. Although he was still unwilling to accept it in his heart, he could only bow his head. In the world of pirates, force is the most important thing after all. If you can't win, you can only choose to swallow your anger, which is better than losing your life. We were indeed a bit impulsive. A man came out to act as a peacemaker. We made mistakes, but you didn't make any mistakes? It takes two to tango. Aren't you just a little bit stronger than us? Of course, they only dared to think about such things in their hearts. Then let me ask again, do you agree with what I proposed before? Jinan asked, looking them in the eye. We have no objection to opening schools and commercial companies in the South China Sea area. Everyone looked at each other and spoke at the same time. But we still need to consider the establishment of an inspection department. An agency like the inspection office is very disadvantageous to these local tyrants. If this department is suddenly established, their every move will be monitored by this department in the future. Many things cannot be done, so how can they make money? Strictly speaking, we are an organization under the jurisdiction of the world government. If you want to suddenly set up a new organization like this, do you need to consult the people above you? They are right now, and even if the incident goes to the Holy Land, I believe those people will be on their side. Don't worry about that. I'm directly in charge of this organization and I'll pay for the operating expenses. You just need to execute it. Besides, I'm just informing you, not discussing with you. Jinan slammed the table and put on his coat, too lazy to continue seeing these people. End of the chapter. Like and subscribe for more videos like this.